Audition delay. NTO.
Your witness, Mr. Haydarian, whenever you're ready.
Apologies. Good morning, Faye.
Morning, buddy. Okay, sorry.
I want to go and start with how this whole situation sort of came to be. In 2010, you didn't make your tax payments, is that correct?
Yes, forgot to. I asked Amir to pay it, but turned up
And Amir is your husband?
for me.
Amir is your husband?
Yes,
And after that, PNC said that well, what happened next?
I got the letter and says they pay my tax, my property tax. And immediately I called them.
And this was, do you remember when it was?
It's about springtime, maybe February or March, sometime like that.
And did you hear anything back for several months?
And actually, when I call them, I told them I can pay the tax, property tax, and they say they can put to the loan.
And then when's the next time you heard back from PNC?
That takes some time. I don't remember exactly.
Was it around October of 2010?
I believe it's around that, and they sent me the letter and the coupon book, and it says that's different what the conversation we have during the phone is escrow account.
Could you pull up JX35? Approximately how much were your taxes that PNC paid in 2010?
It's about 11,000.
And can we zoom in on this a little bit? Lower part, let's go down slightly lower. And so it mentions that the total disbursement on the left side of 10,240 and 37 cents. Does that sound like it was perhaps your
Yes.
taxes? Okay, now let's zoom out a little bit. And let's scroll down a bit. And here we have the escrow shortage of $23,310.93. And when you saw that number and you saw that the taxes were roughly $10,000, did that confuse you?
My screen here have some spot to block the number. How I can get it off here?
When you saw that escrow shortage amount of 23,310, did that confuse you?
Yes,
And even if you take the prior number, the 10,000, and you multiply it by 2, that would be approximately 21,000. Would you agree?
from the paper, yes.
And so when you saw this, what was your reaction?
And I got the coupon, I got this, and the first reaction, I was focused on the coupon book, which is the number is 5,500 something. And it's kind of like a double than the original payment, monthly payment. So I think it wasn't reasonable for increase so much. So I call right away. I always call when I got the letter.
And when you called, what was PNC's response? Well, first of all, why did you call them?
I want to ask, make clear, how come up this big number, and I want to explain, how this escrow account set up.
You think it's a reasonable request that if someone's asking you to pay double your mortgage, they explain to you how they came up with that number?
Objection, argument, leading.
Stand.
When you called and you asked for an explanation, what did they tell you? How did the call go?
The person is not quite understand, just kind of like, I pass you to somebody else, ask me to hold or something, I guess. And then after that, and then say, well, it sounds like, and ask me, keep paying the monthly payment like usual, which is monthly less than 3,000 and I guess is 2,800 something. And then say, we will get back to you.
When you made these phone calls, would you typically make these phone calls just by yourself, or would you sometimes have other people on the phone calls with you?
And that come to the number jump to kind of like, to not normal. So I call and then I don't remember, who, but I just want to very clear, because I know during the phone call, the people, they could speak fast and I couldn't understand very well. And so when I make the call and always says, the customs service and saying the phone call is recorded and how can I help you? So I state my name and also the account number, and then the issue I brought up, what the reason I call.
Who are the two people who usually make these phone calls with you?
Lot of time is my husband and also my son. There is a lot of time. And I introduce them the situation and pass them and say, this is my husband, and they have a right to talk, in behalf of me. And I'm next to them, and when they call, I still can hear very low the conversation.
I believe JX35 is already admitted, but I would move to admit.
Just in case it has not been admitted, any objections to JX 35?
It is already in, and we certainly don't object to this.
All right. Noted for the record.
Did PNC ever call you back with a response after you spoke with them?
No.
What happened the next month?
I think this matter was very simple, just the tax, they pay it. And at the beginning, I already said I could pay it off. And then they say like that. And then I just think it's quite simple. So for a little bit longer, and I always follow up, things, and I'll call again.
And did you get another letter from PNC sometime after that? The next month?
I don't remember it's next month or something, but I'm not sure the letter. I think these things all struck quite well the phone call.
Let's pull up Exhibit 87.
But every time when I get a letter and I just call the next day, because sometimes I got the letter, it's right after the business hour.
Do you remember getting a letter like this around November?
Yes.
And do you remember what your response was when you saw this letter?
I'm quite confused what is that says in the letter, and I just call the next day or
In this letter, they mention the fact that um, this could cause your monthly payment to increase. Do you know what they were referring to when they said that?
no.
When they sent you this letter, does this seem to contradict what the representative told you about continuing making your monthly payments?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence.
Well, I think that was in evidence just 5 minutes ago, Your Honor.
Object as well, Your Honor. It's also leading.
Overruled on leading. I'll allow it. Overruled. Can you answer the question, ma'am, if you remember it?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So PNC said that they were going to investigate and called you back. And then you got this letter instead, right?
I believe so.
After you got this letter, what did you do?
As I say, always, and when I got the letter, I call right away. And also this kind like Exco account, and I familiar is something you need to set, because I during the past 10 years, something like that, always involved to the loan and the mortgage, and also a little bit not, familiar for Exco account, something like that. So I just don't want to kind of like, something I don't understand, on the paper. Really, I don't understand what it says. I always call to make sure what's that.
So you've been a businesswoman for many years. If, let's just say you're building a house and one of your suppliers comes back and says, hey, I want you to pay more money, do you typically just pay or do you ask?
Oh, that's quite different and quite, things like strange here too. And when I have all this line of credit from the, supplier, is so many accounts, the line of credit is up to more than 100, like the brick lumber, a lot of that concrete. And they always, this is kind of like a small company compared this bank. And when you set up these accounts, when you're dealing with these things, they have the identity person. And when you call them, you tell them, this is Faye, and this is my account number. And the people answer the phone always can direct it to me, the same person, and handle my account. If that is like the business consistency to follow up the way handle the account, and we have sometimes have a bill, disputes, and there's a little bit more activity for that. And when I order something, and some of the things I can return, I always can deal with the same person and very clear what we are talking about.
When you call PNC, were you dealing with the same person?
No,
Were you ever dealing with the same person?
no. They always customer service. And then when I state the issue, when I state my name, the account number, the issue I want to talk, and they ask me to hold on, and then means transfer somebody. And then same thing, get to the somebody, and they also tell me, how can I help you? And I stated, repeat it again. And then after I say it, and then they try to figure out what's that, and then they just the answer just say, we will get back to you.
You mentioned something before we got to this letter. You said that whenever you called, they would mention that the phone call was being recorded. Would that always happen?
Yes,
Are you confident?
yes,
Certain?
no doubt.
when this letter says we shorted your escrow payment by 2,795, did you understand what that meant?
No,
When you called PNC, did you have the benefit of Mr. Bevins, who was testifying yesterday, to explain it to you?
excuse me?
Well, when you called PNC, did the representatives who you spoke with, were they able to tell you what that meant?
No,
On this document, it says any payment received for less than the total monthly amount due will be returned to you. You see that?
the letter says, but I never get any return at that time.
So apparently this is also less than your total monthly payment, but that payment's not returned to you. They just keep it, right?
Yes, until all the way to January 1st and 2011, they just cash all the payment.
So basically, they tell you to keep making your payment. You make it. They say that any payment that you receive that's less, we're going to return to you. They don't return to you. And then they say, we want more money anyways. Is that a fair description of what happens?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I can answer.
You can answer.
Repeat I got lost, distracted.
It's
Sorry.
okay. But basically, after you did what they told you to, they said that they were going to investigate and they didn't call you back. And then they send you this letter saying that if it's less than the total amount due, we're going to return it to you, but they don't return it to you. That's what you just said a few minutes ago, yes?
I never get the return, from that point. So for me, of course, from this letter, because I call, I just need to make, make the result, and it's not expecting to get my money back.
Right. I believe this one might be admitted as well, Your Honor, but I believe P87 is admitted. I moved to admit again, just out of caution.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, no objection to 87, which, yes, has already been admitted.
All right, let's go. That was in November. Do you keep making your payments to PNC?
And at the same time, I keep calling.
Let's pull up Exhibit 49. All right, does this appear to be a letter that PNC sent you? Do you recall receiving a letter like this, Faye?
It looks like I have the letter like this.
Could have moved to admit P49.
Objection, Your Honor.
No objection. I think it's already in.
All right, if it hasn't already been
Objection,
admitted,
sorry. No objection.
it's admitted.
Over here, it mentions that your funds will be held, well, first of all, it says according to our records, it's a balance of $2,838.92. And then it mentions that we're unable to apply your loan because your required monthly payment of $5,527.06. So you made your $2,838 payment, and did they return those funds to you?
No, they cash it.
In your prior letter, they mentioned that if you send partial payment, they're going to return your funds. Do you remember that?
Yes, just, we talked about that earlier.
But they take this money and they keep it, right?
Yes,
Overruled.
And then if we go down a little further, it says your funds will be held in a suspense account until January 4th. Do you know what a suspense account is?
no,
Does this letter say what a suspense account is?
no. And I call,
And you called.
yes.
And so tell me what happens. What happens when you call?
When I call, same thing. And then first I had to, repeat all what the matter I have, And then they say, hold on, I'll transfer you. And then get to the person, I had to repeat it again. And then get to, tell them, have somebody in behalf of me and to talk about this. And the person, they didn't, kind of like this, didn't talk, explain what is it. Just ask me to keep making the bank payment, will get back to me.
In the next line, it says, if we do not hear from you by then, the funds will be applied to your mortgage account in the following order. If owed, negative escrow balances, late charges, return check fees, property inspection fees, and other fees due. As you continue making your payments, does PNC ever tell you how the money is being applied, if they're charging you fees, if they're doing property inspection fees, if they're doing anything else?
No, they just kept telling me, keep the payment, we will get back to you. And get to this point, I kind of like got to intensive call and just keep calling. And then when I call, nothing get to the point, and then it's for a while. And then I just think, of course, I know that if the payment, the new payment, it will be more than 2,800. And I didn't kind of like think, okay, 2,800 is fine. You jacket your fee, then I just do my stuff, keep paying the one. I really just try so hard, so many calls, and try to get the result.
I'm just wondering, do you know if they started charging you fees and late fees, and did they ever tell you that that's what they were doing in their letters?
When I call the person, nobody tell me.
I want to pull up.
And then you keep doing that, and then maybe there is some fees involved or something like that. No, just keep saying, keep doing your payment. We will get back to you.
Could you pull up Exhibit 216? Go to page 50. Do you see they start charging you late charge fees of $136.56?
No.
Do you see what we just highlighted?
Yes, that says that.
Did they
But-
ever tell you this before?
No.
Do you know how they came up with this number?
I don't know.
Did we only
I
get,
didn't know.
move to admit 216, Your Honor?
Say that again.
Move to admit Exhibit 216.
216,
No objection.
admitted.
Let's go back to the prior letter that we were just looking at for a second, which was 49. And in the bottom of the letter, it mentions, if you have any questions, please call us, or please call one of our customer service representatives at that number. Is that the number you would call to get information from them?
Yes, when I call, always call the number from the, from the letter.
And when you called with questions, were they able to give you answers?
No. Until nobody can answer my question until I guess the day around January 20, probably January 20.
We will get there in
1.
one moment.
I'm
And-
sorry because I'm so confused, all these letters showing up,
That's fine.
even just right now, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I want to pull up the actual next letter you got, and I want to go through what happened after that. Can we pull up Exhibit 50? Yes. All right. And let's scroll up to the date of this letter. This is January 12th. So this is actually before the representative you were going to go talk about, but do you remember getting this letter sometime after January 12th?
Oh, yes.
Move to admit Exhibit 50, Your Honor.
No objection.
Objection, Your Honor.
50 is admitted.
So when you get this letter, the first thing it says is that we have a partial reinstatement in the amount of $2,838 towards the past due amount of $11,054.12. First of all, do you know how they came up with the $11,054.12?
No.
If we add the 5,500 together, what does that end up being?
Objection, Your Honor. I'm not sure what the 5,500 is, but it's not the complete payment.
All right,
Well, let's go ahead and
for that, so overruled.
we'll get to that number in a second when we go further down, but this is another provision that I'm going to ask you about. Before you got this letter, did you make your normal payment of the $2,838 like I told you to make while they look into it?
Yes, until the January 2011. I think, always at the beginning of the month, I send out the payment.
Okay. And just like the last letter is mentioned that if you send what they said is a partial payment, they're going to return it to you. Did they return this payment to you?
No.
The next line to mention is that they came up with a past due amount of $11,054. Do you know how they came up with that amount?
I think I'm not quite understand because they say keep paying, that amount until they, figure out what is the, new monthly payment. And this number is kind of like a very confused you. It's very, it's due for what? It's for it's almost close to like the tax money. It's just make you confused what this number is exactly come out.
And then they said something about a partial reinstatement. Do you know what they mean by partial reinstatement?
Partial reinstatement from the word, I understand just only part of the month, but I really get confused. And then I call again.
And what happens when you called again?
And same thing like before, then I call. And I think before that, I even couldn't reach somebody. but finally, I think in January 20 and 25, sometime like that. And I reached the lady and then always need to stay what I want, what I call for. And then
Before we go there, and I'm going to show you another letter and just. Could you pull up Exhibit 51, please?
Second. Deputy Scott? You handling that? All right. Let me know if you want to pause, Mr. Hider, if you think.
I'll pause for one
you
moment.
can Comment. It might be a minute.
Oh, okay, continue then.
Oh, no, it's your preference. I'm not gonna make you go through that.
Yes.
In case y'all want to come back for a criminal case sometime. Just for the jury's edification, it connects to another courtroom.
All right.
All right, please continue, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Between that prior letter and I'll represent to you that the date of that letter was January 12th. You got this letter January 20th. How many times do you think you called PNC between January 11th and January 20th? Was it just once or was it a few times?
it was a lot.
And you got this letter on January 20th, and I want to go through it with you. And does this appear to be a letter that PNC sent you?
Yes,
Okay. And, well, Your Honor, we're going to move to admit Exhibit 51.
Objection.
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you want a minute?
So you received this letter, and just in the interest of time, is it fair to say that if we look down at the second paragraph, it says that it is our duty to notify you that you have breached or defaulted in the performance of your obligation. Do you see that?
yes.
And then it mentions that monthly installment payments have not been made, including payments for December 1st, 2010. But during that time, you were making monthly payments to them.
December 1st,
Yes.
2010, I still, do my duty as they told me to send the monthly check, the month previous.
When you got this letter, did this stress you or were you like, it's not a big deal?
No, it's very stressful to get. And first is something, you see the letter, suspend account. And then now these come into installment payment. And then these partial payment, something like that. I just get more and more confused by these letters.
And so it mentions that you can basically resolve this by paying some money. But at this point in time, do you understand how they came up with that number?
No.
So what's your response?
Paul,
And what happens after you call?
And I call a lot of time, really call, like constantly, maybe once a week or few times a week, or, even more than couple of times a week to try. Sometimes, the phone line is busy and I wait a long time. And then that time I still have other things to do. And then I just kind of like, okay, it should be way too long. I will call back. And then I call.
Okay. And I just want to go through this letter for a second. Right here, it mentions that in the letter, you need to make a payment of $16,990 in certified funds. The 5,000 payment, the 5,500 that they said is your new monthly payment that they later said, we're going to investigate. If you multiply that by 3, do you get the 16,990?
I'm kind of lost. I just, can I just in my way to respond you?
Sure.
And I just kind of got very confused, and most the letter just changed the number a lot. From all these letter, one time is this number, and then one letter is that number, and one time is this word, and another time is the other word.
So this letter mentions that you need to pay the $16,990.86. We're not exactly sure how we get that letter. And then do we get another letter? And let's scroll up to the date on this. This is January 20th. So let's look at the next letter, which is Exhibit 216.
This letter probably is already, when I got it, is after I make a phone call.
Let's pull it up. 216 first. 216. Oh, page 86. So this is a day later. And does this appear to be a correct copy of the letter that came on January 21st, one day later?
When I got it, it's not like the letter state, right?
Yours had a letterhead and things like that, right?
Yes, should have.
Move to admit this particular page as Exhibit 216.
Objection.
Objection.
Admitted.
And so right here, it just mentions your loan is delinquent for 2 payments. The total amount due is $11,327.24. Do you see that?
Yes,
And the letter you got a day prior said you have to pay $16,000 and something else. Did you remember that?
yes,
Do you understand why these numbers are different?
no,
Does it make sense?
no.
Does this letter mention that you can call PNC? Let's scroll to the bottom. Does this letter mention to call PNC if you have any questions?
No, this I didn't, yes, there is number. I always keep the letter and then, find the number from the letter to call.
Is this and maybe we should pull up some of the other letters to compare, but I'll represent to you that this is a new phone number that they've given you. Does that appear to match your recollection?
Yeah,
Earlier when we were talking, you wanted to talk about someone who was helpful. And you spoke with a representative who was helpful. I want to go into that conversation now. So you end up getting that letter. And at that point in time, I think you said that you're a little confused. What happens when you call?
Checked on foundation grounds. I'm not sure where we are, what the letter is, or when this is.
Tie that down, Mr. Adair.
Sure.
Kind of clarify.
So you just got this letter. This is the date of the postmark is January 21st, which was one day after the prior postmark of the prior letter. Do you end up calling PNC sometime after you get these letters?
Yeah, between this 20, as I say, 20 to 24 or 25.
And do you end up speaking with a representative who is,
Yes. I end up, the tone is a lot nice. And I state my issue. And then I pass to, I don't know, that time is passed to my husband. And I hear the conversation. And they just asked me to just hold a second, but didn't have the, the tongue like you transfer and just hold there and quiet and silent a little bit. And she said, it's right, and tell me the new number, which was 3,800 something. I don't remember exactly. And I always, when I have a call, and I write it down, the main thing, what they say, and then try like, and then that time when I hear that, I was so happy, and write down the number, the amount. And then she's told me from February the 1st, that's my new payment. And, after that, it's good to go.
so just to clarify, PNC promised you in that phone call that you start making these payments starting February 1st of the $3,000, and just to be precise, $891.98. Did this representative tell you anything about how you have to pay other payments?
No,
Did you do anything the very next day?
she just say start from February. And then I was so happy. Finally, do you know how many months and how many times, how I stressful. And then it's so hard to reach the person, seems knowledgeable and tell me to set, have the result. And the right next days, I would say why I had to, they say I will get the coupon book. And I just, why I had to wait? Because the money you pay early a little bit and later a little bit is same, is just for, the month. And then I just send it right away.
So you even sent them that payment before you got the coupon book?
Yes.
And were you happy that this situation sounded like it was fixed?
Yes, when I send the letter, send the check, put in the mail, I, finally.
I'm going to pull up Exhibit 72. So is this a copy of the coupon book that PNC sent you?
Yes.
And did you make a photocopy of this coupon book because your son told you to?
Yes, I was so happy with this coupon book, and then I was struggle so long. And then when I get the coupon book, and then I say, okay, I make a copy, and, I send it the very quick with another check.
Are you aware that in this lawsuit, we requested a coupon book from PNC or any coupon books they provided you, and they said none existed?
They say that they did not have a coupon book.
Well, are you aware that when we sued PNC and we said, you guys said you'd accept the $3,891.98, they denied ever having any sort of agreement to accept that amount?
Objection argumentative.
If it's on argumentative is the objection, then that's overruled.
I can answer, yeah.
Yes, you may answer.
Yes, they denied it.
And are you aware that it wasn't until we came back and we actually said we had a coupon book that they changed their story as far as why they weren't accepting this?
Objection leading.
Well, I'll sustain that one on argumentative. The leading, I'm allowing him for purposes of this direct. If you could rephrase that question, Mr. Adair.
Sure. Until you provided this coupon book to PNC, did PNC ever acknowledge that it had agreed that there was an agreement or promise that you could pay the $3,891?
They denied it.
And are you aware that even after we got into the lawsuit and we actually sued them, that they provided the documentation, they provided answers where they said, we never had an agreement to accept the $3,891?
Same objection.
Sustained.
We'll go on to the next question. And we're going to circle back to this in a bit, but just to clarify, before you even got this coupon book, you made that first payment.
Yes.
And then what happened next?
And I sent the second one, and then I see they didn't cash it.
What happens when you saw they didn't cash it? Did you know why?
Oh, I just guessed. There's a 1.1 sent out. I don't know, and I just confused because sometimes I'm really tired to catch up. You remembers? Okay, I'm sorry. I remember right away. I sent the first check
Yeah.
and get the coupon. I make a copy and send the second one. And when I check and there's not cash, and then I send another one. And between that, I guess I call.
Before we go to the call, so you have a call with the representative, and you actually write down that $3,891. They tell you they're going to mail you a coupon book, but before you even get that, you mail the first payment.
Yes.
And you check your bank accounts and you see that the money hasn't come out.
Mhm.
At that point in time, you get the coupon book, and did you just say you mailed the payment again with the coupon?
Yes.
Let's pull up Exhibit 52. Does this appear to be a correct copy of the letter you received from PNC?
Yes.
And I believe this is already admitted as 52, Your Honor, but just out of caution, I'm going to move to admit.
Any continued objection to 52? All right, 52 remains admitted.
Sorry, I didn't hear. No objection, it's already in.
So according to this, it mentions that your check or money order 1226, and this is actually after the first one that didn't get cashed, but the one with the coupon book, 1226, an amount of $3,891.98 is being returned to you. There's 3 check boxes here. The very bottom is checked. It says other payment doesn't meet acceptance guidelines. Do you understand why it doesn't meet payment guidelines?
I don't understand.
Does this tell you anything about how much you need to pay?
No.
Does this tell you if they think that your check needs to be, from a different bank? Does this tell you anything?
No.
So what's your response when you get this?
I got this, and then I call.
And what happens when you call? Are they able to explain why it doesn't meet payment guidelines?
And this time is worse.
Tell me why it's worse.
And then they just say transfer, and transfer a lot. And get to the point, and there is, I should call him gentleman. And when I say I call so many times and you change for so many times, already changed so many times. Could you help me to get to the department that handle this issue? And I still can remember his voice.
What do you remember?
It could just shut you down. It's kind of like, hold on. It's in a very deep voice compared to the first answer.
Sure. The very first line up here on this letter, it says, the amount received is not sufficient to reinstate your loan from default. That line isn't checked, is it?
I'm sorry.
The first line isn't checked. It doesn't say your loan is in default.
No,
Do you get any answers when you're calling PNC and asking them why it doesn't meet payment guidelines?
I asked them, nobody could answer. I told you, so there is no single person is the second time I could talk about that. So nobody knows that. And I was very frustrated during this manner of, the manner of doing business.
Let's just jump back for a second to Exhibit 216, and let's look at page 49. And do you see that they charge you a late fee of $136.56 for making that $3,891.98 payment as they told you to in the coupon book?
Objection.
No,
Totally mischaracterizes the document.
Sorry, Darren, do you want to rephrase that?
Sure. Let's go down to the actual date. And here we're talking about February. And let's look at that line down there, the 26, well, yep, that one. Perfect. February 16th, 2011. This is presumably a day before they sent you that letter back. And you made the $3,891.98 payment, just like the coupon book told you. And they're charging you a late fee of $136.56. Does that make sense to you?
I wasn't aware there's a charge.
That prior letter said didn't meet payment guidelines. It said they got the payment on February 7th. Yet they're charging you a late fee charge on February 16th. Is that a fair assessment of what happened?
This just in this letter.
Correct. But in your other letter, it doesn't even tell you about late fees. All it says is doesn't meet payment
No.
guidelines. And so you get that letter back. It says doesn't meet payment guidelines. You call PNC and they can't explain the situation. What do you do next?
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Hidari is testifying by asking these very long leading questions and I object to them.
Understood. I'm allowing leading questions for this direct.
So after we received that last letter that mentioned doesn't meet payment guide, well, after you called PNC and they weren't able to explain why it doesn't meet payment guidelines, what did you do next?
This time, I think, I don't want to, somehow mail or something. I think the second one, I sent it like the UPS or something like that is not a normal mail. And then the third one, I just directed they to wire the money and try to pay and then try to keep like, the promise and then make it my loan, current.
So the next payment you mailed was via UPS or something more than just mailing a check like you had been. You receive a letter back from PNC, and let's pull up Exhibit 53. And what's the date on this letter?
March 3rd,
And
2011.
thank you, Faye. And does this appear to be a correct copy of the letter that PNC sent you?
Yes.
We're going to move to admit Exhibit 53, Your Honor.
No objection.
Admitted.
And so you mentioned that you mailed your first payment before you got the coupon book. It wasn't cashed. You mailed the second payment with the coupon book. And then you said, this is another payment that was mailed that you just described. And it says that this one was dated February 28th, 2011. Do you agree with that? Does that sound about right in terms of the chronology?
Yes.
And
This time is wire.
well, actually, before we get to the wire, I want to get to, let's talk about the payments you made, just because I'm jumping around. And so I know I'm confusing everyone. But the first payment you made after the phone call with the representative in January, how did you make that payment?
Check.
And then you made another payment. How did you make that payment?
I think it's check or
And-
like a
Go ahead.
Monday. Anyway, just check. I don't remember exactly what but I sent the check.
And then,
And then I just afraid maybe get lost in the mail. And then I send it, faster, and safe.
let's pull up 74 for a second. Does this appear to be a correct copy of the overnight shipment receipt you sent to the PNC with your payment?
Yes.
Move to admit 74, Your Honor.
No objection.
Okay.
74 is admitted.
Now let's go back to the last letter we were just looking at a second ago, which was Exhibit 53. Thank you. And so here we have this letter saying that your check dated February 28th, 2011, in the amount of $3,891 is being returned to you. Once again, there's only one thing that's checked. And would you agree that it's payment doesn't meet current acceptance guidelines?
I don't understand.
Is there anything in this letter that tells you why they're not accepting this money?
No.
What do you do next? Well, scratch that. In the bottom of the letter, it mentions that please call us immediately to discuss your account. Do you call them immediately?
Yes.
When you call them, what happens?
I couldn't, this time, after that, actually graduate, and the call is so difficult. Not like a beginning, the one, I say for my tax, for all this is a lot of call. And then this time I called, just kind of like hold on, and then wait so long. I don't remember exactly. It wait so long, and then I just think, okay, I hang up, I call again, and then get to the point disconnected.
So how long would you wait on hold before you get disconnected?
That was long, waiting. Probably close to 1 hour or something. And sometimes when I, when I get to the first one I called, couldn't wait a long time. Then I had to jump to do something. And then I kind of like becoming smart, just, expect long waiting. So I just sit there when I know I have time to wait.
Before I cut you off earlier, you mentioned that you made a wire payment or a bank payment. Did it come after this or before this?
It's before, after, after wire this money, they still didn't cash any of these payments.
So you mailed this payment and said in the meet payment guidelines, you just mentioned it, I couldn't explain it. Did you ever mention to any of those representatives that you have a coupon book and you're supposed to be paying the $3,891? Did you ever?
Yes.
What was the response to that?
They kind of like they say, hold on, I'll transfer you. And nobody, when one of them is, you wait, I'll transfer you.
And so you told them you have these coupon books and they just transfer you around?
Yeah.
The date of this letter, can we scroll up a little bit, is March 3rd, 2011. A few days later, let's pull up Exhibit 216. Let me see. 91.
It's a little over 15 minutes, Mr. Haydari.
I didn't hear that, Your Honor.
Just a 15-minute warning. Or excuse me, that'd be 10-minute warning.
At this point in time, do you receive this letter from PNC?
It looks like that, but it's the one I got should be have the logo. The logo.
And at this point in time, does it mention that you're supposed to actually reach out to foreclosure counsel and figure out what's going on?
Yes, the letter says that.
And did you end up calling PNC calling these people or reaching out to them to see what's going on?
I remember, yes.
And at that point in time, is that when you got me involved?
Yes, actually, before get the second coupon book, and I was talking to my other friend, and then telling the situation I facing, and they told me, now the bank is very busy for foreclosure. You need to be patient. And then I'm patient, that is a long time. And then when we meet again, another friends, kind of like the close friend, and then they already say, you should get a lawyer involved and represent you. And then I just think, maybe I would try before I get to that point. And then also one time when I talked to my son said, you should get that attorney to present you. And then that's why, it attempted on the January 20 something. And then I just say, okay, let me try. And then that was lucky, I think. I thought that I reached the agreement. And then after this, I really get frustrated. And then I really don't understand the whole thing, what's going on. So that's the time I got you involved.
At some point in time, did you tell PNC that you had a new mailing address?
Yes, it's by a letter writing, and also is on the coupon book. There is a box to check, and then you write down your new mailing address.
And just to zoom in on here, on the right, it mentions that this book contains address change verification form. Is this the coupon book you're talking about, or one similar to it that has your address change?
Yes.
Yesterday, we saw some notices that were mailed apparently to a postal mailbox 289. Those addresses were missing something. What were they missing?
The street.
you remember what that street was?
Old Alabama Road, 3000 Old Alabama Road. If you miss that street number, that street is very long. Run the other side from Peachtree Parkway all the way to the Holcomb Bridge. If you miss that, and then how you can get the letter to the PO box number?
Did you ever receive notice that PNC was actually going to foreclose on your property?
Yes, but I don't remember exactly when.
Was this in March of, or around March of 2011, before I got involved?
Yes,
And then when the house was actually foreclosed in March of 2012, was this before or after you changed your address?
the letter all I got, and then it started from I moved out. That house because I temporary for some other reason. Temporary move out there, and then that should be is in a written letter or something, and then I got all the this letter. You will go to my PO box 3000 Old Alabama.
When the house was actually foreclosed in March of 2012, did you receive any written notification that it was being foreclosed?
No,
How did you find out that it got foreclosed on?
that was sad story. After short time moved out to that house, and that was 2012 and springtime. And actually, I told my daughter and the other relative, and I went to clean the house, and then decided to move back there. And I could use my key to open the door. And then when I walked in, before was have a tenant there, and the house is in a very good condition and very clean, and just only dust. And I met the neighbor, and then that's a very small subdivision, and then people there are very nice, and then we say hi, and then you guys are good to see you. And then I told him I'm going to move back, and I could tell her eyes just kind of like shut. And then I just say and talk a little bit, and then I just stay in my mind, and then why he was like acting like that. And also I checked the mailbox,
Yes.
and there is some advertising. And then there is a letter is from one of the foreclosure attorney. And I don't remember exactly. And then says you need help, or we could help you, something like that or that. And then I just didn't think that's the case because I already have you involved. You should know if something happened. And then all these letters, I thought I would know. So, but more when I got home, more I think. And then I told my husband, I said, oh, today I went there, is something like strange, and something happened like this. And he was traveling, and when he got back, and he called one of the, closing attorney, and he didn't tell me, and when he got home, he tell me.
And when we did our research, you did your research, were you able to find a copy of a foreclosure notice that was actually published but not mailed to you that mentioned that the property was being foreclosed by Wells Fargo?
No,
And so tell me about that. How did we figure out that Wells Fargo was involved?
I have you
Your Honor, I need to make a proffer outside the presence of the jury for a moment.
Why don't we use the last 3 minutes of your direct here? And we can take that up.
Just a simple question for you, Faye. The other side was talking about how your stress, your problems were all related to one of your businesses. Was this foreclosure different than your other business disputes?
This foreclosure is for my home, my dream home. And then it's for the memory for my kids. And then I was planning to stay there. And I already built up the business. I can see I did well. And then now I have the home. Do you know home is home? When you work tile outside or when you have wood or anything, you just think the place is for healing and give you calm. And then when you have a family around that, it's kind of like give you energy, and that's mean a lot. And after that, and that time my son have a girlfriend and always come to our house too. And I was expect if they got married, have children, and then I'm the grandmom, and I can have the kids around me. And when I pass away, this is going to be to my children.
In terms of some of those other business disputes, the other side mentioned a business dispute with BB&T, and they said that there was a business dispute for development of a property. At that time, did you have an attorney that represented you?
Yes,
Who was that attorney?
you.
After that BB&T situation, were you happy that it was, well, let me strike that. Did that BB&T situation settle and resolve?
Let me tell you, that's the business. When you want to do business, it's always you can succeed or you can fail. If you fail, it doesn't mean stop. You can try. And if something is not suitable for you to do, you can find another one to do. Business is business. And the business, because I have a subdivision and with BB&T, and they fund me a loan, of course, based on my credit and based on my experience, because the company already established. And they have a phase to kind of like the stage for the loan. And the commercial loan normally is 1 year. And that time, I already finished one house and sell like more than 600. And there's one house is pending, and there's one house is halfway. But that time, get to the point is renew the business loan. And that time, everybody here should know is the housing crisis. It costs the bank. It's not, I mentioned anybody here, okay? That is the situation. And they decided not to renew the loan. And I countersued them. They went to the court to foreclose this loan, the property. They want to take it back. And we went to the court, and we reached the settlement. And then I think that time for the business, I make the decision I had to make. And also I had to calculate that time. You can see everywhere, even the good area, it doesn't matter where and there, it's foreclosure sign there, and the lot, and the subdivision, and the house. And I was just kind of like that. Should let it go, good for me, or should I continue to do it?
All right,
So-
we'll have to leave it there. Anyone on the jury need a break? All right, let's take 5.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hadary, what was it that you said you would like to proffer for the record?
So I understand the court said that we can't discuss any 13-6-11 fees or anything related to attorney fees during our case in chief. And one of the reasons why I think that is important, not only are we dealing with a situation of these being compensatory damages, and so we're talking about how she got hurt on the right arm without being able to talk about how she got hurt on the left arm, so to speak. But significantly, I heard the other side's questioning, insinuating that, she had no means, she had no ability to pay for this house, or, if they would have accepted it and she was sort of, it wouldn't matter. It would have been futile. Until we switched to being on a contingency basis, she paid a significant amount of money. And I think that directly refutes their claim that had they not, had they simply honored, then in that situation, she
Sure, but and I think that's a very different thing than you putting up evidence of how much you've been paid to show attorney's fees. If she wants to show she had means or had money, yeah, that's absolutely fair game, because one of the elements you have to prove is proximate cause. The lack of a proper notice actually harmed her. So, yeah, that'd be fair game.
and so she could talk about how she paid me, and that's acceptable.
I don't see why she couldn't. If it's yeah, right. If it's within the actual, like, but she hired him before the foreclosure, so I think that's what he's getting at.
Well-
So if it's that period before 2012 of March, showing she had some cash flow of some kind, I think that's
Any documentation we've not seen. The statement that we got from Mr. Hadary starts at the litigation and doesn't indicate that she paid $70,000 or something over a number of years.
I imagine that was something you were going to be exploring on cross, was the financial means, and let's see where that takes us. But right now the direct's over.
So I can't go into this area of inquiry.
Well, at this point, I mean, your time's up. So we'll see if it's raised on cross, and then maybe on redirect, you can, if it's been raised, then we can see where you go there.
And Your Honor, just for the record, I specifically wanted to make that proffer to ensure that I had time to bring it up on my direct, because I do think that it was important to my client's case in chief. So
Okay, we'll see if you have the opportunity on redirect. Does anyone need to step out? We maybe 2 or 3 minutes to be a very, very quick break. Let's be back in 3 minutes to bring the jury back. Ms. Ong, you need to step down for 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Because if so, if it was, if the jail, they have to get. So you know, that in the same, was in the building, so this was
I would probably do the same thing. She know you still. They say she's paying, so. So then. She said. What did you know?
Was that one of ours?
Yeah, no. What's that guy forever?
Motion to trial?
Yes.
It was not, we don't have anyone here today for us. Wow. Yeah. How'd you have to do it?
I got that here.
I mean, you know how to handle it. No, wow. How can you remember what he said? Yeah. You mind checking to see when they're ready? They've been good with the light, but I just want to make sure.
Your Honor, there's one other point I'd like to make.
I don't know if we're back on the record yet. Well, wait. All right, I believe we're back on the record now, or can be. And so, Mr. Hader, you had something else you wanted to bring up?
So. I also stayed away from another area of inquiry and an area of discussion based on our, based on your Honor's ruling yesterday. Yesterday, at one point in time, when I was trying to cross-examine PNC, I basically asked him about statements that PNC's counsel made to the Court of Appeals. And Your Honor said that you thought that that would be, improper.
So that's something we can explore here. I don't think the way you were getting it in was the way to get an admission in. So if there's an admission that a counsel made at a hearing or on a record that says of an issue of fact, as I understand it, that's something that I can recognize and you can recognize. Give me 1 minute. But if it's necessarily through this witness, I don't know if I don't think that's the appropriate means. So if that's a statement of fact you've been able to clear by a defense counsel, we can start there. So what is the statement of fact you think is an admission here?
So if you recall, when PNC's representative was speaking, he fluctuated where he basically said, well, maybe there were coupon payments or coupons in a coupon book that began in December and January, contrary to my client's position, contrary to my client's statement. This situation was actually firmly addressed by the Court of Appeals, and I actually have the video transcript put up so that we can see it. I was just going to read the transcript yesterday. I was going to put a video up, but
I don't need to. You can just read me the statement. I don't need to see it.
okay. Well, the
We don't
court.
have any context, because we've been told nothing about any of this, so we haven't been able to research.
I know.
So the Court of Appeals asked this specific question, and there were several sections, but this is the most important for my admission against interest. The court specified, and I'll quote, "You reach an agreement that recognizes there is an arrearage. It provides for this increased payment for a period of time. And there are documents reflecting this is what you pay now. Where were the coupons she was supposed to send in for the other money you say she was supposed to pay for the 2 months?" And PNC's counsel states, and I quote, "PNC doesn't provide coupons for past payments that are due." That's perhaps that one communication that wasn't abundantly clear.
Oh, he's totally mischaracterizing that statement. I mean, the coupons for the payments that are due from the coupon, from the effective date. That's what Mr. Bevins stated, and that statement is consistent with that.
That's,
And the escrow analysis is done effective December 1st. The coupons start December 1st. That's consistent with what you just read.
Okay, so the statement that you believe is an admission of fact Mr. Haydari, is that PNC does not provide coupons for past payments, meaning payments that have already been made?
No, so the testimony was, according to PNC, my client made the first payment in the coupon book. I'm sorry, according to my client's position, she made the first payment in the coupon book, which said February 1st, 2012. And the Court of Appeal said, well, where are the other coupons for apparently these prior 2 months for December and January? And PNC's response is, PNC doesn't provide coupons for past payments that are due. So the coupon book that she received did not have or could not have payment coupons for December and January. She received that coupon book sometime after January 27th. And so there were no coupons, and there couldn't be coupons for December and January.
I mean, that's just totally mischaracterizes the state.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little lost here. So your point is, what's the bigger point here? I'm trying to understand that the PNC rep,
Counsel, an oral argument, an appellate argument, not a PNC rep. I think this is an attorney at oral argument.
which apparently under the case law can bind your client. Even a summary judgment hearing, the argument, from what I was able to look at, could bind your client if it's about a statement of fact. So I'm past that point. I'm more trying to see if this is actually what was meant by that admission, and frankly, just because I don't personally have a lot of experience with coupon books, that I'm still kind of struggling to understand it factually. So PNC rep said that there. Started from the top, Mr. Haydari.
Sure. So one of the big issues in this case is my client gets this coupon book. And according to her testimony and according to what's been, I would say, established and admitted to and everything else, the first coupon in the coupon book is February 1st, 2012. I asked Mr. Bevins, is it possible that a coupon book had prior months? Is it, does a coupon book start at February 1st? And he did not give a unequivocal answer. And he seemed to insinuate that, well, maybe it did, even though this was sent out after January 27th, maybe there were coupons in there for December 1st and for January 1st, which is now a completely new position that is contrary to previously established admissions.
Well, if he's just expressing a lack of knowledge, saying he doesn't know he was in there, he thinks it. You say it started at February 1st. Maybe it went earlier. He doesn't know definitively.
Well, he said that PNC could do
It
that.
started December 1st.
Well, hold on. Let me let him finish that question.
If his recollection is that it started December 1st, that's even more blatant of a contradiction. And so that absolutely needs to be addressed, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Tobin.
This was addressed at length during testimony, Your Honor. Mr. Bevins testified that Ms. Zong made contact and requested the escrow shortage be spread over 60 months. That necessitated running a new escrow analysis, which was done. New coupons were done with an effective date of December 1st. So now we've got a new plan that starts on December 1st. That statement there, and of course, we've got no context for this. We've been given no notice of any of this. So the notion that we've had an opportunity to review the transcript and briefing and whatever, and the decisions, is obviously we've been totally sandbagged and not given an opportunity to do that, because that's just.
I'm not. This isn't going to be something that's like the next thing that happens. You would have time to come back and consider it. But what I'm hearing is that you're saying that the statement made at appellate arguments isn't contradicting the idea that the coupon book started on December 1st.
These circumstances. That's
Okay,
correct.
and why not?
Because they're not past due payments. I mean, she's being given a new opportunity to start fresh from December 1st and say, okay, here are your coupons starting from December 1st. I don't know what the context was, what the question was, and.
All right. If you've got a transcript of that, Mr. Haydari, you can provide that and highlight the line, and we'll come back to it before you rest your case.
Okay.
All right. Let's bring back the jury, and we can start.
Briefs, we need to look at the opinions. I mean,
We'll see. I understand that completely.
Your Honor, it's actually the opposite way, because throughout this whole litigation, what has been understood and what has been represented, and there's other representations, but that's the one that came to mind, is that when they create this coupon book, they can't create.
I understand the argument. Well, he needs time to look at the statement. All right. All right, Ms. Tobin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Song.
Good morning.
Introduce myself for the record. I'm Ian Tobin, I represent defendant PNC Bank in this case. Ms. Zong, this morning you answered some questions to Mr. Hideri about your business. Am I correct from understanding from you and from your son's testimony that your business, Sylvanus, involved buying properties and building houses on them?
I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses. Can I get
Okay.
it?
I'll just repeat the question, Ms. Song.
Thank you.
Am I correct that your business, Sylvanus, involved buying properties and building houses on them?
The credit from the company for Savannah's company. Yes, the company is established, for a while.
The business of the company was to buy properties and build houses, perhaps among other things. Is that something that Sylvanus did?
Yes,
And when Sylvanus bought property, it needed to pay property tax on the property that it owned, correct?
everybody need to pay a tax, not property, only property tax, right? Sorry.
So is it fair to
sorry.
say that you became familiar with the necessity of having to pay property tax in
Yes,
connection with property? Yes, okay. You mentioned to Mr. Hideri that you forgot to pay your 2010 taxes. Do you remember
Yeah.
saying that?
it's not I forgot, and I told Amir to pay it, and he forgot.
I see. Okay, can we see Joint Exhibit 21, please? Ms. Song, this is a letter that we've already seen, so we don't need to introduce it into evidence again. But we're pulling up a document which indicates that in a letter to you from PNC, that PNC's been notified of delinquent taxes on a property on February 1st. Do you remember getting this document, Ms. Song?
Yes,
Right, and do you remember being advised in this letter that you should make the payment within 30 days?
actually, when I got the letter, I called PNC.
Isn't it true, Ms. Ong, that you did not make the payment within 30 days?
I told you I called them for the,
You made the payment within 30 days. I'm not asking about a phone call. Isn't it true that you did not make the tax payment within 30 days of getting this letter?
when you come, your PNC pay it, so that means in the county, they already got the tax amount. So what I understand, I need to pay PNC. And then I call PNC, I say I can pay you back.
Okay, and did you make payment of that amount?
They told me they're going to put this amount to the loan.
Okay, so this conversation that you had with PNC was after PNC had already made the advance to cover the taxes? Is that correct?
After I got the letter and notified PNC already paid the tax in behalf of me.
All right, Ms. Ong, let's take a look at Joint Exhibit 38, please. Do you remember answering questions this morning to Mr. Hideri about this December 14th, 2010 letter that you received about the payment that you had made shortly before then?
This letter looks one of the letter I got.
We scroll down to the bottom, please. Did you understand when you saw this payment coupon at the bottom that PNC was asking you to make the rest of your monthly payment by submitting $2,688.14?
No,
Okay. Let's take a look at Joint Exhibit.
I really don't want to, sometimes.
Ma'am, I don't have any questions pending, and I do want to try to keep
I'm
this moving.
sorry.
So, no, that's okay. I appreciate your efforts there. Okay, let's let's go back, Ms. Long, to beginnings of the loan and the business. Is it fair to say that you were the only borrower on the loan from National City?
Yes,
Right? But your husband, Amir, signed the security deed. Is that also fair to say?
I'm not,
Are you not sure about that?
I couldn't record.
Would you agree that if your husband's name is on the security deed and if his signature appears there, that would indicate that he is a party to the security deed?
Let me make this. All the loans and all the property until that is owned by myself. And I don't, if there, I don't know what happens there.
See Joint Exhibit 13, please. Ms. Song, we have up here assignment of security deed, and there's a name near the top, the Future Funding, Inc. Do you see that name? Do you recall that that's the name of the mortgage broker that helped you get the loan from National City in 2004?
Yes,
Move admission of Joint Exhibit 13, Your Honor.
So could you get the exhibit number again?
Joint Exhibit 13.
13,
Objection, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor.
admitted.
Ms. Zong, do you remember that in addition to the loan that we've been talking about in this case, you also got a home equity line of credit that was secured by the Latour property?
yes,
All right, can we see Joint Exhibit 17, please? Ms. Zong, is this exhibit the account agreement, equity line of credit account agreement that you signed in order to get a $100,000 loan in March of 2008 secured by the property?
yes, because by that time, the home I have a big equity. So the bank offered me to have a credit line, just like all the financial industry. If you know, even my daughter, just a college, student,
I haven't asked you a question.
and they
do you want to-
offer this. I remember. Let me tell you. And then that time the interest rate was low, and if I got it, it's secured, and then I could use this money to do business, roll over.
And thank you for answering my next question, which was, so you used this $100,000 that you borrowed against your property to help with your business?
Not helping my business, always cash in the hand, always can grow big business, grow up. I think a lot of big company, they welcome to have a cash. They have a
Move
credit
admission of
line.
Joint Exhibit 17, Your Honor.
Also objection, Your Honor.
17 admitted.
Ms. Zong, is it true that shortly after you obtained this $100,000 loan secured by the property, you began making efforts to sell 700 Latour Drive?
No,
Okay, we'd like to mark as PNC Exhibit 10. A Zillow listing for 700 Latour Drive.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Well, I'm showing it to refresh your recollection. Let's see if this refreshes your recollection as to whether she listed the house for sale.
All right, so just for the record, the objection's overruled.
Can we pull up PNC Exhibit 10, please?
Well, let's not pull it up if you've got
Here,
a
shall I
physical
show it
copy.
to her? By all means. Well, I've got it too. We've got more. You can keep that one. I take one. Yeah, approach, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm also going to object that I don't believe that it was provided in the
Just using it to refresh recollection.
in accordance with the pretrial order, Your Honor. So
All right, noted.
Ms. Zong, could you look at the second page of what I've handed you? You see at the bottom, there's an indication that the property was listed for sale on August 23rd of 2008. for $750,000?
I don't record. I don't have any remember I put this house for sale.
So
And
does
then,
this document refresh your memory that you in fact did list the property for sale
no,
in August of 2008? How about all the price changes that you see from
I
from
think
there
that's enough
on?
for if for the purpose of this document, it has not refreshed her memory. So if you've got some other means of admission, you can pursue those, but I don't think further questions about what's in it would be appropriate.
Ms. Long, I'll ask you to look at the first page of the document. You see there, it says 700 Latour Drive, Sandy Springs, Georgia.
You're,
And then there's a series of prices. I'm just trying to see if
Objection,
this document's going to refresh your memory that she listed the property for
Your
sale.
Honor,
Right.
I'm gonna object again.
I understand, Mr. Adair. I think she's already pretty much said no,
Very well.
so we can't read the contents of it.
Ms. Long, you answered some questions to Mr. Hadary about some litigation that you had with BB&T. I'd like to take a look at Joint Exhibit 33, please. Is it fair to say, Ms. Zong, that in early 2010, BB&T was taking legal action against Sylvanus regarding certain properties that it had made mortgage loans to Sylvanus on? I think the question is okay, even while we're waiting for the document to come up, but do we have a link problem? Joint Exhibit 33? That's 53. So Ms. Long, can I ask you a question while the document's coming up? Here we go. It is on the screen now. Isn't it true that BB&T was taking legal action against Sylvanus in early 2010 in connection with certain properties that it had made mortgage loans to Sylvanus on?
this just before we have a break, I already talked about that. That was the subdivision. It's probably have 12 or 14 lots. And BB&T, it pretty much is kind of like my construction lender.
Yes.
And get to that point, that time, you should be very aware that the situation, the bank, they want to take back the property. So
I'll ask to interject here because we're limited on time. I've been limited in how much time I've got to ask questions. I think we need to get answers just to my
Ms.
questions.
Zong, just listen very carefully to the question that's asked and try to answer only that question.
all right, thank you.
Ms. Zong, do you see at the top of this page, there's an indication that Sylvanus Company is named as a respondent as borrower, and you're named as a respondent as guarantor? Do you see that?
Yes,
And does that mean that you were named as a respondent in this case because you had guaranteed personally to pay back the loans that Sylvanus had obtained in case Sylvanus could not make the payments?
and this one, very simple. And I countersue them, and we go to the court.
Ma'am, I just asked you a yes/no question. Isn't it true that you were named as a respondent here because you had guaranteed the debt that Sylvanus had taken on to buy these properties with mortgage loans from BB&T?
There is a personal guarantee, but in this case, I didn't have any,
You mean you never had to pay any money to BB&T?
Yes,
on
we
the guarantee?
we
Yeah.
settle.
Okay. Can we look at paragraph 7, please? Ms. Zong, paragraph 7, which is coming up, appears to summarize some of the properties that the BB&T loan was secured by. Would you agree with that?
In this document, yes,
I'll move the admission of Exhibit 33, Your Honor.
Also no objection.
33 is admitted.
Can we look at paragraph 27, please? Ms. Song, I'll read this paragraph aloud. It reads, because the property number one did not bring the amount of the debt which it was conveyed to secure, a deficiency remains on the mortgage debt. So the petitioner may bring an action to recover the deficiency. It hereby reports the sale under power to this court within 30 days of said sale and prays that said sale be confirmed and approved under OCGA 44-14-161. Did I read that correctly?
Of course, you read it correctly
And
from
didn't
this
you
paper.
understand that this meant at this time that BB&T had a deficiency and therefore might come after Sylvanus and you to recover that deficiency?
Actually, I countersued them for this issue.
I'm just asking at this time, okay? So
Yes,
and
that's
the
what
date on
I'm
the first page
answering
was-
is I countersued them on this issue.
All right. As of August 3rd, 2010, which is the date of this document, isn't it true that you understood that you might be on the hook for all this debt that's summarized in this document? Is that just a yes, no? Did you understand that at this time, you might be on the hook for the debt?
I'm on the hook with that because I think this wrong. I don't believe that. I won't be.
All right. Can we,
I wouldn't be because I have a reason for that point.
is the reason what you've already told us that you countersued and worked it out, or is there another reason?
I have a countersued them because that time, actually they didn't want to renew my payment. It get to the time need to renew after 1 year, and then they say, okay, the interest rate change, and then you wait, and then they just wait after same thing, 2 months. And then BB&T, they have branch there, and then keep go to, I still remember the loan agent. And
Ma'am, I think you've gone beyond the scope of my question. We do need to move on, so I'll ask you to wait for another question. And I'd like to look at another document, please, which is PNC Exhibit 4. Ms. Zong, we pulled up on the screen a consent order confirming non-judicial foreclosure sale. And if we could take a look at page 3 of the document, you see that there's it says ordered as follows at the top,
yes,
right? And you see that in the next few paragraphs, there's an indication that the parties to this consent order are agreeing that the foreclosure sales are confirmed of the properties.
the letter here says that, and as I say, I want to make that's the settlement. I
all I
walk
asked-
out
that's all I asked you,
without
if that's what it
owe the
says.
bank anything.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's take a look at paragraph 5, please. Paragraph 5, I'd like to read into the record as part of the consent order. The parties shall mutually forbear from bringing any civil action or other similar legal proceeding cognizable at law or equity against the other arising out of the underlying loan transaction that is the subject of any of these 3 confirmation proceedings, including, without limitation, for seeking a deficiency judgment for a period of 1 year, or, in other words, until sometime on or after November 6th, 2011. Ms. Zong, is that the agreement that you were referring to that resulted from BB&T's suit and the countersuit against you?
We have a settlement. Sorry.
This settlement involve you agreeing and BB&T agreeing not to sue one another for a year until November 6th, 2011?
This says yes.
So isn't it true that for the entire year from the date of this agreement until November 6th, 2011, important time period for this case, you were aware that BB&T might sue you for a deficiency judgment on all the debt that's tied up in this lawsuit.
I can countersuit them. I already filed the countersuit.
Move the admission of PNC Exhibit 4, Your Honor.
No objection to that one.
4 is admitted.
We take a look at Joint Exhibit 34. In the interest of time, I'll represent that these are dockets for the 3 cases that were addressed in the pleadings that we've just seen and show that the order that we just looked at was entered in all 3. So I would move the admission of JX 34 at this time.
Okay. I'm going to object to relevancy, Your Honor.
This is the order you just covered, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Tobin? All right, admitted, overruled, admitted, over objection.
Ms. Zhang, am I correct that there came a time in 2010 when you moved out of the Latour property?
Would you please repeat your question?
Did there come a time in 2010 when you moved out of the Latour property?
Yes, I probably around like 2010 or something.
Okay, can we look at Joint Exhibit 32, please? Is this the lease, Ms. Zhang, between you and the Williamses for the Latour property starting August 1st of 2010?
Yes,
Is it fair to say that between August 1st of 2010, I'll strike that. Isn't it true that after August 1st, 2010, you never lived in the property again?
I moved out on springtime 2010, and for some months, and I just leave it vacant, and somehow get to this, want to interested to rent my property, and there was a couple, and the wife is doctor, and they are very nice, and I think so. They wanted to rent for 2 years, and then I say just do 1 year. I want
The admission of Joint Exhibit 32, Your Honor.
No objection.
32 is admitted.
Can we see Joint Exhibit 74, please? Ms. Zhang, is this the lease agreement for the 3502 Waters Run Drive property in Alpharetta starting March 22nd of 2010?
Yes, that's the springtime, and the rent is 2,700.
So is this where you were living at the time the property was being rented to the Williamses from
It's
August 1st?
way before the property ran out.
Okay, I understand that this lease started on March of 2010, but is this the property that you lived in after you began leasing Latour to the Williamses?
Yeah,
We look at the last page of this document, please. We're pulling up the lease agreement extension. Would you agree, Ms. Zhang, that the lease was extended until the end of March of 2012?
March 2012. This agreement is, I didn't make it. I don't think I signed it.
You see the term of extension number 1? I understand. Your husband signed this document, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And the term of the extension indicates that it extends the lease until March 31st of 2012. See that highlight there?
that means 1 year, right? If my mom's still working, it's just only 1 year lease, right?
Would you agree that you lived in this property until that, at least until that extension end date of March 31st of 2012?
Yes, that's why when the lease, almost get to that point, I will want to move back to my home. That's why I find out, my property have trouble.
Understand your, Ms. Zhang. Move the admission of Exhibit 74, please.
74 is admitted.
Good news with the silence is I'm finding things not to ask. Ms. Zong, you answered a number of questions about the payments that were being made in late 2010 and early 2011 when Mr. Hadary was asking you questions. Do you recall that?
I'm so sorry. I have a little bit hard time follow you
Okay.
question. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll try my best to slow down.
It's not you slow down or not, just I kind of the moment I can engage.
Did there come a time?
I try best to answer your question.
Did there come a time in the spring of 2011 when you began sending financial information to PNC to try to address the payment status of your mortgage loan?
Mm.
Perhaps we can do it can you answer that, or shall I try something else, Ms. Zong?
Yeah, it's sometimes I just kind of can engage you. It's not I don't hear what you say.
Let's take a look at Joint Exhibit 61, please. Ms. Zong, this is a document that's in evidence and dated April 19th, 2011, and asks for certain financial information such as pay stubs and a copy of a lease agreement. Do you remember seeing this letter in particular?
That is another frustration for me.
So you do not remember seeing this letter?
I see this letter,
But do you
and
remember, do you remember seeing this letter back in April of 2011?
what the time I kind of now is just very mixed mind. But this letter, I'm familiar, I got it.
Do you remember during this time, say April, May 2011, you were sending financial information into PNC to try to get some sort of a repayment plan or a hardship plan of some kind?
Oh, it's good you have. And when I call after that, and they just, there is
And
one.
my question is just, do you remember this is a time when you were sending financial information to PNC to try to get a repayment plan?
Replay plan? What's the play plan?
Let's take a look at Joint Exhibit 62, please. And let's go to the third page of the exhibit.
Now I remember this because,
All right, I'm going to ask you questions. Ms.
sorry,
Zong. Is this a document that you signed in the lower left-hand portion?
it looks like.
Okay. And is the information that's provided on this page information that you wrote onto the form?
This looked like I signed that, but the time, let's I say, I was very frustrated
I'm just
after
asking
all
if this-
that.
I'm just asking if this is your
I even
handwriting.
don't know what I'm signing there. I even didn't know, how I signed this because the agent, some of them just tell me after file that and then tell me hardship, try this and convince me and ask me to provide the information. And then I told them that's not what I want, the hardship. And they just keep saying, why don't you try? And maybe you can, get to the point, people, they will help you better.
Is the information on this form accurate?
Now you ask me is regular or not. At that time, I was very frustrated. And then I just kind of after the representative tell me, oh, I could try this, I could try that.
By that answer, do you mean that you don't know whether the information that you signed is accurate on this form was in fact accurate?
It's not saying accurate or not accurate. It's very normal sometimes when you're in the situation, you want to get some sort of that. That is the preliminary information. You just sign on that and put on that. And then sometimes maybe there is a mistake, like any information you apply and then should have a mistake there maybe, and then for the professional one to go to check on, okay, this is the real things. Is it reasonable or is fact? If you want to make sure, and then you should have the one.
Ms. Zhang, you're far away from the
Thorough.
question. I'll ask you another question if I may. On the left-hand side, there's a reference to monthly income, and it shows that you're getting $1,000 a month from Sylvanus and $2,300 in rent. And this is as of April of 2011. Did those figures accurately state the amount of income that you had during April of 2011? Yes or no, please?
The income from Sylvanus company is 1,000 in which year?
I'm asking if these figures on this form that you signed are accurate. Was $1,000 what you were making a month from Sylvanus at this time?
It should be fine. You should be correct because at that time,
That's all I needed. And the $2,300 rent, is that a reference to the rental payment that you're getting for Latour?
yes, that's the time before they move out, I got the number, got the payment.
All right, can we go to the last 2 pages of this exhibit, please?
I'm sorry when I have a emotion because
We're all doing our best, Ms. Zhang. It's been a
I
long
just
week and we're
sleep 3
tired.
hours these
All right, Ms.
days.
Song, let's just
Sorry.
stay focused on the questions.
The next to last page of this exhibit, Ms. Zhang, is next, I think there should be another page, is your tax return from 2009. And I'll ask you if these 2 pages are accurate depictions of your tax return from 2009.
Yes, that was 2009.
So the amount of
Only 2009.
income that you had in 2009 was $8,106.
It should be correct because that's the year 2009.
Okay, let's take a look at Exhibit 65, please. Ms. Long, we have up on the screen what looks like a memo format from you to PNC dated April 28th, 2011. Is this a document that you sent to PNC on that date or around that date?
Yes,
And did you prepare this short memorandum?
yes.
And the last sentence of that paragraph is, I hope the lender grants an affordable payment plan so I can keep my house. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, from this letter.
Did you understand at this time in April of 2011 that because you had missed several mortgage payments, foreclosure was a possibility?
Because PNC reject my payment. I didn't,
Isn't it true, Ms. Long, that as of April 28th, 2011, you understood that foreclosure was a possibility?
I don't know what exactly. And after that, they, yes, put in a threaten foreclose my property.
Can you look at the next page of the exhibit, please? Does this page accurately depict the profit and loss statement for Sylvanus Company for 2010?
That is the Sylvanus company profit and loss. I have another 2 companies.
Were the other companies in better shape than this one?
Yes,
Why did you send this one then?
I don't know.
Okay. Are you familiar, Ms. Song, with a company called North Georgia Brick Company, Inc.?
Yes,
Isn't it true that Georgia Brick was a supplier of building materials to Sylvanus?
Yes, for all these times.
Isn't it also true that Georgia Brick filed a lawsuit against Sylvanus and against you to collect payment of certain bills that hadn't been paid?
That it was have some sort of like that. When we the brick use a lot. When you order that, you could order a lot. And if they left over, if you don't open in a pallet, you could return it. And
They sue you because they gave you too much material?
they didn't credit the one they pick up.
So there was a dispute about the lawsuit. Correct? You were not, you didn't believe that you owed North Georgia Brick all the money that they thought that you owed them. Is that true?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, can we look at Exhibit 79, please? 79? Yes. Do you remember, Ms. Zong, that North Georgia Brick had a very difficult time serving you with process in this case, getting the papers to you so that you would be a defendant in the case and have to respond to it? Do you remember difficulty that they had trying to find you and serve you with process?
No.
All right, let's take a look at this and see if it refreshes your memory. Let's go down to 3 lines from the bottom of the first long paragraph. Attempted service, attempt number 1 on May 31st, 2011 at 8:43 p.m. at 3502 Waters Run Drive, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30022. Bad address. A Middle Eastern man lives at this house. His name is Amir Ajirniar. He told me he moved into the house 10 months ago and that he didn't know Faison. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Was 3502 Waters Run Drive where you were living at this time?
Yes.
Right. And do you remember this incident when your husband told the process server that he didn't know who you were?
I don't recall.
Do you-
But finally, this is settled. I pay them. And we settle correct. And also the time, like I have a little bit hard time, but finally. And then the person in charge my account left the company. So that's their company probably lost the record. But I'm willing to resolve in the,
Move the admission of Exhibit 79, please.
Object on relevancy, Your Honor.
On relevance,
And for all
Well,
this,
Ms. Zong-
sorry,
I can explain how this is pertinent.
I'm sorry.
We're trying to establish that Ms. Zong had numerous other sources for her emotional distress during this time period, this lawsuit being very much among them,
all
including.
right,
the
that's
fact that
enough. That's enough,
process-
Mr. Tobin. I understand. On relevance, it's overruled, and so admitted over objection.
Can we look at Exhibit 80, please? Do you remember, Ms. Zong, that there were some further efforts by North Georgia Brick to locate you, including by trying to take a deposition of your husband about the difficulties that it was having serving you? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Now let's look at the paragraph that begins at the bottom of page 1. Ajirniar's deposition is needed to determine the service address of defendant Zong. There is little doubt Ajirniar knows defendant Zong and her whereabouts. Supporting this is the fact that Ajirniar called the plaintiff in an effort to negotiate a settlement on behalf of the defendants. Moreover, in a telephone conference, counsel for Ajirniar confirmed that the two knew each other and further informed plaintiff's counsel that Zong had no money and would be filing for bankruptcy protection. However, counsel for Ajirniar refused to give any information as to the whereabouts of Zong and refused to acknowledge service on her behalf. Did I read that correctly?
From this letter, yes. But I really don't remember. The only thing remember, that's only dispute and I have issue for all these 10 years, practice my business, and then the amount just like that. And I believe that is every business, they would have sort of this.
These
But
kinds of
for me, so
difficulties
long
getting
and
served, yeah.
involve so many big line of credit.
Move
And
the
then just
admission of joining
settle
exhibit-
it 5,000. I'm sorry.
Move the admission of joining exhibit 80, please. All right, can we look at
I'm
joining?
gonna object, Your Honor.
On the grounds,
Here's a NAL
All right, and 80 is, again, this is the process document?
This is ensuing from the process. The attorney's found out more about the situation and has filed
Okay.
this
All right,
motion.
so on the objection of hearsay,
The objection of hearsay, well, I'm offering this not for the truth of the matter asserted, but to address the fact that Ms. Zong is undergoing a lot of other stressful circumstances that are contributing to her emotional distress. So that's the purpose for submission.
It's textbook hearsay, Your Honor.
It's also public record. So I think we take care of the hearsay exception there.
well, if you have a certified copy perhaps, but
Hmm.
I think it's being offered for the truth of the contents of these actual events occurred therein. So I think on hearsay grounds, I'd
I
sustain
disagree
it.
with that. I'm not
Yeah.
offering it for that. I'm offering it to establish the circumstances of emotional distress. It's not just the foreclosure. It's a lot of other things that are happening to her. Including the fact that she's defending this. She's named as a defendant and she's having to deal with process servers and the like. So I think I should be entitled to argue to the jury that
Okay, Mr. Chapman, I understand. I think your arguments are fair game. I think the relevance is overruled, but this document itself, to admit this document, I don't see that getting around a hearsay objection.
Very well,
I'll sustain it there.
Ms. Zong, I'd like to direct your attention to Joint Exhibit 81. Ms. Zong, were you present yesterday when Mr. Bevins answered questions about this letter from PNC to your attorney?
Say again,
Sure.
sorry.
Were you present yesterday? It's just a very simple question to start. It's just to see if you know much about this document. I may not have to ask you much about it, okay? Were you
Thank you.
present yesterday when Mr. Bevins, on behalf of PNC, testified about this letter from PNC to your lawyer?
Yes, it just happened yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember seeing this letter back in 2011 when it was sent?
It should be. There is a lot of, that time a lot of letters.
So by that answer, do you mean that you think you did see it back then?
This letter is to my attorney, right?
Understood. No, I understand that. And that's why I'm
But it's
asking these
not
questions.
to me.
But by that answer, do you mean that you're not sure whether you saw it back in 2011? You're not sure if
I
Mr.
don't
Adair-
report.
Let's look at the third page of it, please. There's a paragraph at the top of page 3 that says, as of the date of this letter, the loan is due for December 2010 payment and is active in foreclosure. Ms. Zong, in July of 2011, were you aware that PNC had been telling you and your lawyer that you owed each monthly payment starting in December 2010 through the present?
No,
You didn't know that?
no.
Were you aware that the loan was active in foreclosure as of July of 2010?
July 2010. I'm quite not quite recall to that what happened because that time I already have my attorney. If I have the letter and I will pass to him, and if the letter to him consider this matter, he'll contact me. But for the whole
Zong,
thing,
I can move on from this so we can do something
Okay.
else, okay? Can we look at Joint Exhibit 83, please? Ms. Zong, this is a letter dated August 1st of 2010. You see that it's addressed to you. And the first paragraph says, this is to notify you that the reference property is now vacant as of August 1st of 2011. Do you remember receiving this notification from PNC that the property was vacant?
What day is it?
August 1st, 2011.
August. I have a lease with the tenant for 1 year.
You remember what the circumstances under which your tenants left the property?
Because the bank sent somebody to bother them.
Isn't it true that you sued them to evict them from the property?
No. Because they say they are feeling uncomfortable for somebody to knock the door. So they want to,
Before you go on, I want to show you something to see if it refreshes your recollection, which will mark as, we'll see Exhibit 11, and we'll show to Mr. Hadary before we show you, but not to the jury. Yeah, approach your honor with this copy.
thank you.
Ms. Long, do you have in front of you what we marked for identification as PNC Exhibit 11? And it shows case information at the top.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to publication at this time.
I'm not
If this
publishing.
is just to refresh her recollection,
Sure.
then the jury shouldn't be finding out about the contents
Okay.
until we know whether it's refreshed her recollection.
Ms. Zong, could you look at the first page of this document and review what you see on that page? And let me know when you're finished reading all the information on the first page.
This is the first time I knew I sued them.
So you were not aware before this that you sued them?
No,
Does it refresh your memory as to whether you sued them to get them out of the property?
no,
But you do remember that they left the property around the summer of 2011?
yes,
So when PNC sent you the letter on August 1st saying the property was vacant, that was a true statement, correct? Property was vacant on August 1st, 2011?
I don't remember what exactly, when exactly they moved, but they told, because of that, and they want to terminate and, the lease. And I say, okay.
Ms. Zong, as far as Exhibit 81 goes, 81, 83? Looking at 83, aren't we? 83. Do you have any reason to think that the property was not vacant when PNC sent you this notice of vacancy on August 1st, 2011?
Was not vacant. It says it's vacant.
That's a hard question. Maybe, why don't I try it a little better?
Sorry.
When PNC sent you this letter saying the property was vacant, do you think that was correct?
As I say, the property was vacant.
Okay.
And
So at that point,
after they move out,
so at that point, you could have moved back into the property, true?
yes,
But isn't it also true that you never moved back into the property? You stayed at the Waters Run address.
what's that?
Isn't it true that you never moved back into the Latour property after it became vacant?
I already say that I want to move the 2012 and
The admission of Exhibit 83, Your Honor?
the springtime.
All right. Any objection on, I'm sorry? Okay, 83 is admitted.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 84, please. Ms. Zong, would you agree that in this letter, also dated August 1st, 2011, PNC is advising in the first paragraph, thank you for sending the financial information requested in order to review your eligibility for a mortgage workout. Upon reviewing your file, we have found that information is still needed to consider your request. Please mail or fax the following information by August 16th, 2011. And then there's a request for pay stubs and certain business documents. You see that?
Yes, in the letter,
There's a
yes.
paragraph a little bit further down that says, unless this information is received by August 16th, 2011, or the foreclosure sale date, whichever occurs first, we will be forced to close your workout file. Fair to say, Ms. Long, that as of this date, you were aware that the property was in active foreclosure?
For some point, but I don't remember what time. And then this matter, when I get letter, I always pass to my lawyer.
Move admission of Exhibit 84.
No objection, 84, Your Honor.
84 is admitted.
Ms. Long, was it around this time in August of 2011 that Sylvanus stopped operating?
Yes,
Okay, let's take a look at Joint Exhibit 89. Ms. Long, do you see this is a printout from the Georgia Corporations Division? Do you see that?
yes,
Do you see at the bottom that you're identified as the CEO, the secretary, and the CFO, the chief financial officer of Sylvanus?
yes,
And do you see up in the upper right that there's an indication that this business was dissolved on August 24th, 2011?
yes. That
That
time, the market is not good.
And that appears accurate to you, that that's around the time that Sylvanus stopped operating altogether,
What's the altogether?
completely?
Yes,
Thank you. Move the admission of JX 89.
No objection.
89 admitted.
All right, can we look at Joint Exhibit 97A, please? (97A). Ms. Zong, I'll represent to you that Exhibit 97 is a collection of notices from the McCurdy and Candler firm dated January 20th of 2012. And I'd like to look at page PNC 566, please. Third page. Do you see on the screen, Ms. Zong, that we've got a letter addressed to you and your husband at the Latour Drive property dated January 20th of 2012?
no,
You don't see that?
I see that here, but I don't get this letter, and that's what I mean, sorry.
Okay, so it's your testimony that you did not receive this letter, correct? So you just said that. I'm sorry. I don't need to ask you that again. You just said it. Fair to say that as of this date, you were not living at the Latour Drive property?
At that time, not yet, not, after a couple months, I wanted to move in.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Zong, that you don't have any reason to think that McCurdy and Candler did not send this letter to you and your husband at that address on January 20th, 2012? I understand you're saying you didn't receive it, but do you have any reason to think that McCurdy and Candler did not send it?
That I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Can we look at page 569, please? I don't know if there's any way you can rotate it. Great, thank you. Do you recognize the format of this envelope, Ms. Zong?
What's the envelope for?
Well, have you seen envelopes like this from the Postal Service with an indication that something could not be delivered?
Could not deliver to which address?
To Amir and Faye at 700 Latour Drive. You see in the lower right, it says forwarding time expired to Amir Ajirniar at 3502 Waters Run Drive. Do you see that?
Yeah, so means the letter returned it, right? It didn't get to the forward address.
Right, and that's because you and your husband had not arranged to extend the forwarding time to make sure that letters got from Latour to Waters Run. True?
The bank have my address,
I understand, but this,
but why
This
they
does-
send
isn't it
like
true
this
that-
way?
isn't it true that this document, Ms. Zong, means that you and your husband had not arranged for mail to be forwarded to you from Latour to Waters Run Drive? Forwarding time expired.
Not intending to mail, to forward the address?
I'd like to move the admission of Exhibit 97A.
No objection.
97A admitted.
I just get confused. I'm sorry.
You know, in the interest of time, I had planned on going through all 6 of these. I'm not sure it's productive, but if they're in evidence, I think that would be sufficient. So I would move the admission of 97B, 97C, 97D, 97E, and 97F. And I will just represent, because we're sort of skipping over a lot of what I'd planned to do, that these are copies of notices that were sent by McCurdy and Candler that we'll be obviously talking about later.
Your Honor, I need to look to see what
Sure.
the 97, did you give those numbers again?
It was B through F, 97B through F.
97A, 97B, 97C, 97D, 97E, and 97F.
We can admit these, Your Honor.
All right, 97B through F are now admitted.
Can we take a look at 97G, please? And this is the last in the sequence. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Ms. Zong, we have Exhibit 97G up on the screen. Are you familiar with a publication called the Fulton County Daily Report?
No.
Have you ever looked at,
Yes, he says that. Yeah. But I don't, follow like a daily report, the new stuff. But in this paper, yes. I see it.
can we go to the next page, please? And then the next page after that. Ms. Zong, I'll represent to you that these are the published notices in the Fulton County Daily Report for February 6th, February 13th, February 20th, and February 27th, 2012. Did you become aware before the foreclosure sale on March 6th?
No,
these notices
until,
had been published?
no.
Move the admission of 97G.
Here today, Your Honor. Lack of foundation as well.
Mr. Jovan, in response to a hearsay objection, pretty sure there's an exception for newspaper articles.
I mean, I think that's right, that it's a publication of public record. So I do think that that is subject to
The
an
newspaper
exception.
article itself is fine, Your Honor. We're talking about the other affidavit attached and the other documents which are not part of public record.
It's part of
I can
97G.
represent that the first page is word for word what's in the publication. So it's just an easier way to read it, but it's the exact same words. And so all Mr. Hadary, I think, is concerned about, unless the format is an issue, is the affidavit itself, which is,
I'm going to object to both the first page and the second page, but if you want the newspaper article in, that's not an issue.
The second page just being authenticating the first page?
that's correct.
All right, overruled. It's admitted.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Ms. Song.
Thank
Howard?
you.
Good morning, Ms. Young. It's
Good morning.
before in person. It's nice to meet you. I'm Dylan Howard and I represent Wells Fargo in the case. So as you've testified this morning, PNC was your mortgage servicer, correct?
Yes,
When you made payments, you made them to PNC?
yes,
And you testified about a bunch of letters that you received from PNC.
yes,
And after you received those letters, you testified that you called PNC to discuss the contents of the letters.
yes.
You didn't make any payments to Wells Fargo?
No,
You didn't receive any letters during those timeframes from Wells Fargo,
no,
and you never spoke with Wells Fargo.
no.
And the lawsuit is over a foreclosure sale that was conducted March 6, 2012. Is that correct?
What's that? I'm sorry.
This lawsuit is over a foreclosure sale that was held on March 6, 2012.
I didn't know that.
I understand, but you're aware now that there was a foreclosure on March 6, 2012.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
And
Sorry.
around the time of the foreclosure, you never spoke with Wells Fargo about the
I'm gonna
foreclosure.
object That it seems like we're getting into liability issues rather than damages.
You can renew that objection if we get there. I think he's just laying the foundation for his point. So overruled.
Did you ever receive any correspondence related to the foreclosure from Wells Fargo?
No,
And as far as you know, sitting here today, has Wells Fargo ever made any credit reporting on your credit report with regard to the mortgage loan?
do the report that I don't know, but just know my credit just got damaged.
Okay, that's fine. And you, as we said, the foreclosure sale happened more than 12 years ago, right?
So, more than 12, yes.
And you testified this morning at great length about remembering specific letters that you received from PNC in specific months and the phone calls that you made after receiving the specific letters, correct?
Yes,
Do you recall back in 2016 giving your deposition in this case?
that couldn't forget, was very frustrated.
Okay, but you do remember. So your answer is you do remember giving your
2
deposition.
days.
Yep. And you remember that when you went to give your deposition, it was at the Atlanta Bar Association office? Does that sound correct?
I really don't know where, but just give me the address. I go there, and then I saw 3 attorney, and then that was 2 days. Really harsh for me.
I understand. And you said there were 3 attorneys. So your attorney, Mr. Hadari, was there.
Yes,
There was
I
an
say 3 attorney is for Wells Fargo and PNC.
Okay, so there were attorneys from Wells Fargo and PNC at the deposition.
Yes,
Okay. And you were sworn under oath before you gave your deposition?
yes,
Yes. Do you recall Ms. Reese, who was an attorney for PNC, asking, looking at the business name Sylvanus Company, is that the name of your company? And you answered, it was the company. I only provided credit and the bookkeeping service to the company? Do you recall that exchange?
there's a lot of conversation during the 2 days, and that was 2016, and it was very harsh. And then that time I have the interpreter, which is a speak Mandarin. My my native language is Cantonese, and get to the point. I was hoping the translator could help me get everything clear, but turned out it wasn't good. And also I face, I'm so sorry to say, the attorneys, I can, very stressful for the very first beginning, and the face expression and the voice.
Ms. Zong, I
Sorry.
want you to
Little
pay
far
attention to the
field.
question
So
that's
I
asked.
just kind of like, I want to
Let's
tell.
pause there. Let's re-ask the question, Mr. Howard.
I'll
Oh,
just move on
sorry.
to a new question, Your Honor. So do you recall Ms. Reese presenting you with a letter dated March 11th, 2010 from PNC and asking you if you had seen it before?
What's again? I got lost. Sorry.
Do you recall counsel for PNC presenting you with a letter from PNC dated March 11th, 2010 and asking you if you recalled receiving it?
This moment you ask, I don't record.
Okay. Do you recall saying that you didn't remember the letter?
What letter?
The letter that was shown to you from PNC dated March 11th, 2010.
March. If I see the letter you mentioned, maybe I can remember, but now you say letter from this, I really don't remember,
That's fine.
what
I'm
you're
just
talking about.
asking about your testimony, your sworn
Sorry.
testimony back at your deposition. That's perfectly fine. Do you recall Ms. Reese presenting you with a letter dated December 14th, 2010 and asking you if you received that letter?
The deposition up to now, I really not record.
Yeah, if you don't
The-
remember,
the-
that's
the-
a
the-
perfectly fine answer, ma'am.
There's 2 days, one by one, which one, when it happened, first day or in the morning or something like that. That was very 2 long days.
Sure. Do you remember saying in response to that letter that you did not remember that letter?
I really don't remember, that.
Perfectly fine. One more, Ms. Zong. Do you recall Ms. Reese presenting you with a letter dated August 24th, 2010 and a letter dated January 27th, 2011 and asking you if you recalled receiving them?
I really don't remember, what you refer, at these questions.
I understand. Do you remember responding to that at that time in 2016? You did not remember those letters?
What letter? And then I even didn't see what letter
That's
you
fine, Your Honor. No
refer
further
to.
questions.
I'm so
Thank you for your
sorry.
time. No, no need to apologize. Thank you for your time.
All right. Can you redirect on those points?
Yes, Your Honor. I want to go over some of the points we just discussed. And could we pull up PNC 4?
They're joining the
Just PNC.
Sorry, I missed it.
Could we take 5, Your Honor, please?
All right. Let's step out for 5. We'll be back with you.
Can the client, I mean, can the witness leave the courtroom?
Ms. Zong, would you like to leave the courtroom for a minute?
Sure.
All right. All right. Let's take 3 or 4 minutes. Feeling any better today?
Try to get away from me and jumped in, so I pulled it my skull and so sitting here for hours. just-
Yeah. Long
And I
days.
can't take muscle lessons because I gotta stay awake.
Yeah.
I can't, so I'm trying with that.
Your Honor, I apologize for being late this morning. I was basically in a spot where I couldn't turn back and I couldn't move forward. And so it was off a North Side Drive exit. And it just,
Understood.
so very unfortunate. So my apologies.
Deputy Scott, can you check in, see who we got in the hallway? Awesome.
Your Honor, can my client have another minute? She's still outside and not so great.
I gotta bring this up. I want to go back on the record just for a minute here and flag something for council for us to discuss. Probably during the charge conference and when we're looking at the verdict form as well. It relates to the attorney's fees issue of the amount versus the liability. And the special verdict form that I'd received from defense counsel, and I think maybe the assumption I've been operating under since the beginning of trial, was that the issue of liability was still an open question with Wells Fargo. That's how it seemed phrased on the verdict form. And I'm going back and looking back at the May 28th order where we were talking about this, and it seemed like that was actually already decided that the default covered attorney's fees liability as well. So
To address this further, and the new draft was submitted on June 14th.
okay, so
We made some comments at the trial that, and look back and we saw your, what we thought, understood your point to be.
yeah,
So I think we've tried to address that, so.
That's my understanding. I certainly didn't mean to submit something.
no, I'm not saying it was intentional. I'm just trying to make sure we're clear here. And I thought I had the most recent revised form, but the bottom line is I want to make sure I'm clear, just because I may have misunderstood this in my own mind, is that no matter what, there's going to be a part two where we're going to be addressing the amount of attorney's fees because liability is admitted on them.
Well, my only confusion about that, Your Honor, is Mr. Hidari said he's looking for a 40% contingency fee. That's what he's seeking. So if in phase one, the damages award is zero, then there would be no need to have a phase two. We'll talk about what 40% of zero is.
I haven't stipulated to 40% yet.
I'm not saying you have. All right.
I
But
don't disagree that your order, I mean, obviously, for the record, we disagree and thought we'd be able to bring that. Reserve that for appeal, because we don't think, we think that the allegations in the complaint were legal conclusions, not factual, so we wouldn't admit it. But I certainly understood the order, and the order would imply that if there are damages such that attorney's fees come in, that there would be a second phase.
okay. All right. I think I might just not have the most up-to-date special verdict form you submitted. So I'll take a look at that again. All right, I think we need to get Ms. Song back.
And Your Honor, just so you know, we also submitted a proposed special verdict form on our behalf as well.
Okay, I'll take a look at those over the lunch break. All right, I see she's coming in. Ms. Zong, you can have a seat in the witness stand again, and we can get the jury. I want to check in, Mr. Tobin. Have you, you need more time over the lunch break to take a look at this Court of Appeals line in there and the argument of counsel? Or did you feel ready to argue that as?
See the transcript, I can request, I guess I can try to locate that.
It made it sound like plaintiff's counsel had a transcript of that oral argument.
I actually have the video of the oral argument, Your Honor.
Okay, the video, not the transcript.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is sufficient. Same thing. It's even
That's
better.
fine. What I'm saying is you can refer him to a time marker and a link to the video, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you can take a look at that over lunch. All right, let's bring back in the jury.
Your Honor, can I make a brief record about the 13611 issue in default?
We'll get there. I'm going to see what if we can handle the remainder of Ms. Zong's testimony before we break.
Yeah, that document should not be on the screen, right?
There's a document on the screen, Your Honor.
I don't. Okay, so let's take that down.
What was that document?
It was a document that we wanted on the screen, so we did the nice thing and told you it really shouldn't be up there because the judge didn't want it up there. It was the dispossessory action that Ms. Zong filed to get her tenants out of the property.
I'm looking for,
This one?
Yes, sir.
Jadar.
thank you, Your Honor. All right, Faye, I'm going to ask you just some questions. I just want to hit back on a few things the other side said. In terms of that dispute with BB&T and the agreement that was reached, do you recall that there was an agreement that both parties would essentially walk away from the situation?
With the BB&T, yes, we are kind of like a shake hand deal. They are happy, I'm happy.
And I wanted to just go down to paragraph 5. Let's go down. I'm sorry, it's number 5. Yep. And just to read this, it mentions that the parties shall mutually forbear from bringing a civil action or other legal proceeding. Let's scroll down. Against the other arising out of the underlying loan transaction that is subject to any of these 3 confirmation proceedings, including without limitation, seeking a deficiency judgment for a period of 1 year, or in other words, until sometime on or after November 6, 2011. Do you remember BB&T specifically said they wanted to include that in there so that they could write off the loss on their books as well?
Yes, that time, actually, that was that situation. I'm sorry to say that's their pick the property. And do you know that the lot is 170 each? And then they sold it for 70.
And
A lot of hearsay there.
well,
All right, sustained.
after that transaction,
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't strike that as well with that answer.
The jury will disregard the previous answer.
after the settlement that was, well, first of all, where did that settlement take place? Was it in this courthouse?
Yes, in the Fulton County.
And was I there with you too?
Yes.
And when it was done,
We
Did-
covered this already. Next question.
sure. Let's pull up JX 32. This was the lease we were talking about a few minutes ago. And before I hit a very important point, tell me about why you ended up renting that property to Tim and Amanda Williams.
Actually, I wasn't intention to, kind of like rush to do anything. And that time when I moved out there, it was because one thing is for my husband work over there, and another thing I checked that over at that time, Johns Creek is a very good area. The school is good, and my daughter, she when the very beginning, and then she already feels she have some talented with the art and the music, and she said she like to have some sort of the program continue to have art. So then I just say we move there for shorter period of time. So get to the point after that, and then just say somebody interested to rent the house, and then I just say short time is fine.
Did it matter to you who wanted to rent the house?
What do you mean matter?
I mean, was it significant or important to you that these people who wanted to rent your home were also nice people?
Yes, actually before I have a property for rental, and of course, when you want the house, when you move back, you want to have a good condition. You always pick some people and have a good credit, and can maintain the house nice.
And were these individuals young professionals?
Yes,
Do you remember what they did?
pardon me.
Do you remember what they did for a living?
I know the lady was doctor.
I want to highlight something that, so this residential lease started on August 1st, 2010. And let's see if we can see how much were you renting out this property for? If we scroll down a little bit to the third paragraph, we see rent. And what does this say there?
The rent amount is 2,300. Actually, I could ask more because the house condition and also the location. But I just think of temporary, and that's fine.
And you mentioned specifically they wanted to rent it for longer, but you wanted it.
Yes, they want to sign like a, I think they like to kind of like not moving around. If I don't agree to continue the lease, they had to move out.
I want to jump to JX 74. And there was this agreement as well as the extension. And do you remember how much you were paying for this property?
The rental part, the one I rented,
The one you
is
rented?
2,700. It's pretty much, the monthly payment, I had to pay it.
That was after the escalation, but it started at, and we can skip that. It started at the 2,500. And this lease started on March of 2010. And so considering that you are okay, let me rephrase. And would it have made financial sense if the purpose of renting out Latour was for income to you, for you to have moved into a house that's slightly, I guess, that's more expensive than the rent you're getting from Latour? Would that have made financial sense?
That time I didn't think about these things. And I just think, okay, just temporary, and then we can, offer it.
Your goal in moving was not to make money or because you couldn't afford to live there. You had other motivations, right?
I haven't just because of the other reason I want to move. It's not because of I want to make the living. If I want, I could ask more. And they are nice couple.
And you may or may not know this. Well, let me ask you this. Are you aware that even if after a tenant leaves a property, you still have to have the dispossessory if you want to move back into it?
Could you repeat again? I
Yes.
don't.
And so the other side was trying to insinuate that you kicked these tenants out of the house. Why did these tenants leave that house?
The tenant out of the house
The-
because they were bothered.
So the bank bothered them and they left.
Yes.
I want to pull up JX 75. Well, actually, let's pull up JX 62 first. Well, before we go into this document, what was your understanding in terms of all these hardship documents that we kept submitting? What was the purpose of it?
That was not what I looking for. But after all this frustration, and they just kind of like push me to get the hardship, and it's misleading.
Let's scroll down and let's look at the bank account on 72.
72.
Who is Shi Zong?
That's my father.
Okay. And let's zoom out for a second again, and let's scroll down to the bottom, a little further down. And was this your only bank account?
This one of the banking account, joining account, one of them.
Was this a checking account or savings account?
Checking.
Did this account have interest?
Well, everybody knows checking account, the interest rate maybe the penny.
Actually, we can look down there. There's an interest summary. Does that say what the interest on this account is?
Yes, the penny, 17 cents.
Did you ever submit any of your savings accounts or investment accounts or any other of your accounts, your other checking accounts either?
As I record, now this is the only account I submit.
Let's just scroll down to the bottom for a moment as well. And according to this account, it mentioned that there's an ending balance of, I think, $72. Do you think that indicated your true financial position?
This is the checking account. Sometimes maybe people, they forgot to cover it, is negative. And then you look at this, there is the activity.
And so there's about,
Can you tell me, screw up a little bit, how is the activity?
yes, could we scroll up a little bit? A little higher. And so it shows this account has roughly 4,500 starting, and then a deposit of about 2,300, and then another withdrawal.
Yes, there's a lot activity, right? It's not like that account just sitting there for the whole month. The beginning balance is what is the amount, and then the ending balance is the same amount.
And is that how this account would typically be used?
I mean,
Is that how you'd use this account with your father?
sometimes I use it, but not always.
And just let's look at the date of this one again. This was for March of 2012. Or I'm sorry, was this March of 2012? Let's scroll down a bit to the account summary.
15-minute warning, Mr. Haydover.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is from February to March of 2011. And we're going to look at a very similar document, JX75. And let's scroll down to the bank statement on this one as well. As the document comes up, what was your ultimate goal in constantly providing these hardship applications?
Pretty much that time I was kind of like numbness, just kind of like, okay, you push me this direction, and then I just kind of like coordinate and whatever you want. And then
At that point in time, if PNC had come back and said, you know what, we're going to follow through with the agreement to accept the 3,800 and some change, would that have been something that you could have managed? Would that have been something you could have done?
say again, please.
If PNC came back and said, you know what, we're going to actually follow through with our promise that we'll accept the $3,800, could you have paid them?
Yes, and then I had to leave, had some place to live, right? That's my home.
Did you have enough money to pay PNC if they came back and said, you know what, we are actually going to start accepting the monthly payments that we agreed to accept?
Yes, and I have another 2 company is running. It was running, sorry, my grammar.
It's okay. When you hired me to represent you and respond with PNC and send these letters, was I sending you bills on an hourly basis?
I don't remember how exactly, but I pay you.
Overruled.
Do you remember me charging you for the work I was doing?
As I say, I just remember I pay you.
And you paid me for the BB&T and Bank of North Georgia disputes that they brought up.
Yes,
And you hired me to also go through and deal with PNC for you and try to figure out what's going on. Is that fair?
yes,
And you paid me to do that stuff as well.
yes. Actually, I pay you the money at the beginning is almost the money I can, the money I put on the side to pay my mortgage, and until they foreclosure. So that time you get to involve a lot, and I guess that time I pay you a lot.
I want to switch gears and look at some of these addresses for a second. And let's pull up JX84. And this is another letter that the other side just asked you some questions about. And this is PNC sending you documents about financial information and workouts. And is this the proper address you updated with PNC?
Yes,
It has the 3000 Old Alabama Road street address.
yes.
Let's pull up JX 97D. Let's scroll down to the actual address. Okay. As Mr. Tobin just mentioned, this is the address they sent the notice to. And this is missing the street address, is it not?
Yes. I'm sorry, since the letter, I got pretty much all the letters, from way back.
So after you updated your address, you pretty much got all your letters that you were supposed to get from PNC, and that was not a problem.
Yes, even the insurance.
And if we had gotten notice that there was actually going to be a foreclosure, either you or I, would we have been able to stop it?
Yes,
Section calls for speculation.
Let me ask you this question. If that would have happened, well, when there's been disputes in the past and they've been legal in nature, would you call me and would we actually respond and take court action?
Sustained.
I'm gonna ask you one more final question, which is, what is it that you're seeking here today?
I want my gym home back.
Well, I have no further. I'm
Okay. Mr. Tobin, how much
And-
time do you think you need for a recross, if any?
Actually, it's been a minute.
All right, Mr. Howard?
I don't think I have any.
All right, Mr. Tobin.
Song, I just want to show you. I'll try to make this as painless as possible, Ms. Song, so you can be done. Can we look at JX 75, please? Third page. Ms. Song, I just have a couple more questions about the personal information summary form. Do you see in the upper right, there are some figures there that show retirement funds, investments, and checking savings? Do you see those numbers?
Yes,
So one is 5,000, another is 5,000, and then 2,500. Do those numbers accurately identify your financial resources as of this date?
this form, I feel you say is accurate on that situation. Now, when I look back, I don't know why I feel it during that circumstance. But during the time, I have another company. One is the building material, which is that time people bought the cheap houses, remodeling. That is the source. Another company called Southern Stone Creation is doing the countertop. During that time, it's not for builder, but it's for the
Okay.
people.
Just one more question, Ms. Zong. If we could highlight the portion above her signature. Just want to read that. It says, I agree that the financial information provided is an accurate statement of my financial status. I understand and acknowledge that any action taken by the lenders in strict reliance on the financial information provided. That's true. So did you understand when you signed this and gave this information that that you were telling PNC that this was an accurate depiction of your financial status?
I didn't record it. I read it carefully or not, but I just, for my knowledge, if you submit something, at least you need to sign your name. Otherwise, there's no intention to, no, to give the,
I have no further
But
questions.
for the
All right, thank you, Ms.
circumstance.
Song. Mr. Howard?
Further questions, Your Honor?
Ms. Song, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, it's time for our lunch break. Let's take 45 again, unless there are any strong objections from everybody. And so if we could have everyone back, ready to go right around 1:05, if we can make that work. Thank you all. Oh, 1:05, we have 45 minutes. All right, Mr. Hader, do you still plan to call your last witness, Ms. Song's husband, after the lunch break?
Probably not, Your Honor.
All right, and so the intention would be to rest when we return?
Yes, subject to us discussing a couple of those
Right.
outstanding issues.
Understood. And I know defense counsel both mentioned needing to present their motion. I'll say this, the intention was to allow you to make the record and all the grounds you have for it. How much time do you think you would need for your motions?
15 minutes probably to present mine.
15 or 20, Your Honor, but make it less.
And what I'm wondering here is, it was my intention to take those under advisement. It was not to grant them on the spot. And so as long as you're just raising the grounds, do we necessarily need every single supporting reason, or is that something you could then supplement later at the appropriate time, if necessary?
I think I can be pretty efficient and make my presentation, Your Honor.
Okay, I just would share that. I mean,
Be as brief as possible.
it seems to me that, you know, you're preserving the issue if you just say which elements you think have failed, and maybe you don't necessarily need to say every single reason why. But I certainly don't want to say that you're not allowed to preserve whatever issue you think needs to be preserved. So with that, and then Mr. Tobin, you still have the witness that you're planning to call as well?
And it sounds like we need to call him and we'll start making his way down. He's got hours notice. So that would probably be.
Okay, well, I'd tell him to hustle and to be here, and he should be able to get it right on time. And then over lunch, you'll be able to take a look at this Court of Appeals issue, just to look at the statement and in context.
Right?
Okay,
Troubled by the fact that I've got to give my directed verdict motion after the lunch break. And I've got to look at this video from 6 years ago that was not on an exhibit list. So again, this is just sort of just a last minute dump on us to go to look at some piece of evidence that I'm positive I'm going to have to dispute. And what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to go find, I'm not sure who the attorney was who made the argument. Was it Ms. Reese or Mr. Tepper? I don't believe it was me. I don't remember doing any Court of Appeals arguments. What in the world are we doing here, Your Honor? I mean, this was not identified in the pretrial statement. So I'm troubled by the fact that I've got to spend my time now trying to figure out how to respond to this. And frankly, it would take a little research. I mean, to see what that statement is, just a little snippet. And I'd have to look at the rest of it. I'd have to look at the transcript, probably look at the briefs. I mean, that's what I would do if it had been in the pretrial statement. So I think it shouldn't come in.
Your Honor, there's a few points here. Number one, it's a very short snippet. Number two, perhaps most importantly of it all, throughout this entire litigation, PNC's position has been clear, at least until we got to that point when they said, okay, there was a coupon book. They came back and said, we didn't give you the past coupons because we can't do that. That was the representation made by the Court of Appeals. It clearly falls under the admissions interest. We have the video. There was no wavering. It wasn't. I would like to, well, I don't have to play it. I read the portion in there, but I have the timestamp. I have the case number. It was Mr. Tobin's colleague who made this representation, which is binding on PNC,
Which colleague? Okay.
Sarah Reese.
so the sole statement is PNC doesn't provide coupons for past payments,
Correct.
right? Is that featured anywhere else in the litigation or any other kind of statement of counsel that you're honing in on as being an admission?
I'd have to think about it. There's been a lot of litigation, but as soon as Mr. Bevins contradicted that, as soon as he said that, yes, we can print coupons for prior months when the coupon book is created, because his testimony is essentially, yes, we created this after January 27th, but the coupon booklet could have had the January 1st and the December 1st. And according to Mr. Tobin's recollection, he actually said just that. And so that is a brazen contradiction. And this admission needs to be heard by the jury because
I'm just not, I don't know if I'm saying it as explicit as you make it out to be. The statement, PNC doesn't provide coupons for past payments. I think that could be interpreted several ways, including past payments, meaning payments that have already been made versus payments that we were expected to have arrive, which is, I think, what a coupon book is designed to do. So I'm not quite sure that that locked them into saying that there were no coupons printed for December 1st.
I could expand the scope. I just gave you the question and answer, which I thought was most on point, but
Why does that answer lock them into saying there was not a coupon issued on December 1st, 2010?
they're saying that their systems, PNC is saying that they don't provide coupons for past payments that are due. Their position in this litigation is that Ms. Zong, when they provided coupons, were for past payments that are due. Mr. Bevins said, yes, we provide payments for coupons for past payments that are due. So that's
Okay.
why.
All right, Mr. Tobin, I'll give you the last word here. Focus just kind of on the substance.
Okay,
if you
sorry.
can.
So if the comment, if the intention was that we don't issue coupons for payments that have been made for past payments, that would make sense, but that's not what Mr. Bevins was referring to. He's referring to a new escrow disclosure that was done at the customer's request that starts on a specific date and would start on that date. So if it sounds like they're two altogether different concepts, and it would be confusing for the jury to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Herrier, the objection's preserved for the record, but I think if you wanted to nail down something that specific, that would have come through a request for an admission. It could have come through something else, but kind of a stray comment at the appellate argument where it's just broadly referring to this. I'm not seeing the connection there. So the objection is preserved for the record. I don't see that as being something that is going to take the form of a formal admission.
There are a couple of other admissions that I would also like to be read into the record, and that those include the ones where PNC denied the existence of any agreement to accept a 3,800 number. And I think those are significant. And yesterday, when I was attempting to go into that,
That's right. We flagged that one. Okay, so there's a claim that there's another admission that PNC would not accept a 3,800. I think that's still PNC's position.
Mr. Bevins definitely said that over and over again.
Okay, so and that's what you're just wanting to confirm, or like, I'm trying to be clear.
So there's about 3 statements in the complaint, which they end up contradicting themselves down the road. And I'll pull them up for you, Your Honor, but those are admissions that I wanted to specifically address
The complaint,
in the answer, in PNC's answer.
are these denials? Are they-
Yes, they were denials.
Well, if they're denials, then they're not admissions.
I think that's a good point. I think that's something that he was trying to impeach him on at that point.
Your Honor, the admissions don't have to be a yes. Admissions are admissions because they're admissions against interest. That's the basis of being able to pull in admissions.
Okay, I think perhaps
And I do have cases on that too.
I didn't feel like there was much by way of that this was actually a contested fact that initially PNC did not know that there was the existence of a coupon book. I think that's fairly conceded.
There's a lot of law out there too, Your Honor, that recognizes that pleadings are pleadings. If you need admissions, you serve requests for admissions. And so if there's a statement in your complaint that you want the defendant to respond to in a way that's binding, you serve a request for admission. There's a lot of law, all kinds of cases that say answers are filed early on in a pleading, in an action, and so there's leeway. So I don't know the circumstances. I don't know exactly what we're talking about here.
This is going back to we were in the middle of Mr. Bevin's testimony. And essentially the bottom line is that I think it was paragraph 14 and 15. (14 and 50) doesn't actually mention any kind of a coupon book in the complaint. So what is it exactly that they're denying in 14?
There was also an admission for Wells Fargo too that I, was not able to provide it.
Paragraph 14?
I think 14 or 15, again, there's nothing in there about a coupon book. It touches on it tangentially because the coupon book had that amount. But if you're just trying to say that that's an admission that, or a denial that they sent a coupon book, that's not what 14 or 15 says in the complaint.
So specifically for 15, sure. And there are several admissions throughout the complaint that my intention was to go over.
But you didn't raise them, those are waived. We can talk about 14 and 15 because I remember you bringing those up. But if there's something else in here, then I don't think that's been preserved.
Like to state the fact that I was attempting to abide by Your Honor's ruling and, not go into the complaint until we could address the issue. But 15, for instance, mentions that Ms. Song made a payment for $3,891 and PNC specifically claims that they denied any allegation to accept that amount. And so that would be an admission that I would like, or I would have liked to have explored and would like to put in front of the jury as well.
Isn't that exactly what he said though, that they didn't accept it? What is this changing or altering to the record?
I think it's significantly different, Your Honor, than the characterization of Mr. Evans' testimony. He said that it got returned because it was insufficient funds and the loan was already in default. And
Well, it says admitted PNC did not cash, in the very next paragraph, admitted PNC didn't cash it because it was not sufficient to satisfy, to bring the loan current in paragraph 16. All right. Anything else you want to say in terms of 14 and 15?
I'm thinking my other issues with the plain pleadings or no?
Well, I just was seeing if there's anything else I was missing on 14 or 15. I'm not seeing those as actually playing into Mr. Bevan's testimony or really being admissions or contradicting him in some way. So I don't see those being appropriate for an in judicio admission. So if you want to go ahead and just flag the other paragraphs that you're saying you would have brought up, you can do that if you'd like, and we'll leave it at that.
I'm going to brief response, which is I believe that in terms of whether or not these admissions are of importance or the weight to them, that really should be a question for the fact finder in terms of whether they think that it matters or it's irrelevant. But I specifically thought it was relevant for the purposes of my cross-examination. And in terms of some of the other admissions I was attempting to, or I avoided discussing, they included admissions by Wells Fargo that it foreclosed on my client's property. And
Okay. I think, and you were trying to get that in through the Wells Fargo representative?
I was trying to get that in through the Wells Fargo representative, and I also declined getting it in through my client, which is also something that can happen because, again, this is my case in chief.
Okay.
and-
Now that, I mean, I think that you could still, yeah, if you still want to get that in as an admission, I think that could be done. I think he's saying paragraph 25 of the complaint saying that Wells Fargo foreclosed on the property without a recorded interest.
Closed his case in chief and had called my witness and didn't ask me any questions about that, so I don't understand.
Well, the point being is, again, according to these in judicio admissions, is that doesn't need to come in through a witness. The attorney can simply state it in this place and then the court confirms it. So that'd be 25. You're going to be asking for that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and what else?
Paragraph
How is it that
39, Your
25
Honor.
is coming in, Your Honor? I thought 14 and 15 were the only ones that were up for discussion.
14 and 15 is what he raised during the testimony of Mr. Bevins. It's just, he hasn't rested. And as I think I read yesterday, in terms of in judicio admissions, is that the way those come in is not necessarily through a witness, but simply if there's an admission that he needs to establish that is an issue of fact, he can state it in this place and the court confirms it.
I remember the statute that you pointed out.
And I'll just point to what I'm relying on here. A party may read an opponent's admission in judicio into evidence and ask the judge to instruct the jury that it is conclusive. And Millage cites for that 329, Georgia Appeals 129.
It's awfully tough if it's conclusive for Wells Fargo, and I'm targeting for Wells Fargo, now that its witness has left town. So now its witness doesn't have an opportunity to
Well,
speak.
that's, but it's nothing the witness could contest. I mean, and that's why we've been in this awkward situation the whole time because of this default. It's liability. I'm sorry?
It seems fundamentally unfair that the party that's, I'm sure that the law is that the party that has made that admission gets an opportunity to explain it. So the fact that it's being raised now after the witness has departed seems fundamentally unfair.
All right.
I agree with that.
It can- Your Honor, their pretrial order mentioned that their witness will be here for trial, and if they want to leave early, I think that's.
Okay, so paragraph 25, what else?
Paragraph 26.
All right, any thoughts on 26 from the defense?
Just make the same objections as Mr. Tobin eloquently phrased. These are things that my witness could have testified to, could have explained to the jury. I think it's fundamentally unfair to throw this up at the very last minute after the case has been presented.
Especially since they weren't in the pretrial order either. So we didn't have notice that this was going to be an issue, so we didn't have an opportunity to.
Why is this an issue though? This is something that's deemed admitted and we've known that all along because of the default.
Well, it's in it, it's
This-
admitted, meaning binding forever, what a defendant says in an answer, no. The defendant has an opportunity to explain it,
Yeah,
has an
but
opportunity to present a witness to explain what that admission means. And we didn't know that this was going to be foisted upon us after our witnesses had departed. So this is unfair, and I object to it on behalf of the paragraphs pertaining to PNC.
Yeah.
I agree
Frankly,
with
it
that,
seems
Your
like a
Honor.
major issue.
And the default, as a result of the default, we just admitted the well-pled factual allegations in the complaint. So that's very different from something in any other.
But isn't that a factual allegation? Wells Fargo foreclosed on the property without a recorded interest in the property. That's a factual allegation.
Which can be explained by the fact that actually it did have a recorded interest, and so
That's just, but then that's just trying to unwind the default. This has been the original sin of this entire case.
On behalf of, I mean, yes, I disagree necessarily that those are factual allegations that don't include legal conclusions. However, I understand what you're saying, that we've admitted the allegations in the complaint,
the actual portion of it.
the factual portion of the allegations in the complaint. But we already covered the effect of the default, and so I don't understand why we're missing lunch to argue about this.
There's a lot of things I don't understand about this case. All right. I just want to make sure we're clear. 25 and 26. Those are what you're asking for, Mr. Haydari, and I'm going to take a look at those in the time that we have.
Your Honor, I'm just going through my outline.
I'm not going to sit here and wait. Is there anything else?
Oh, Your
No.
Honor.
All right, we're in recess. Yeah, that's fine. 1:15.
Your Honor, could we go back on the record?
No. Okay.
Understandably, I mean, honestly, if I thought it come. It's lunchtime. He's already given me a lot of leeway. He's doing reason. I know. Yeah. Then.
Mr. Marks, do we have you? Mr. Bridges?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm here, and I believe my client is also in in this thing.
All right, what do we want to take up first?
Whatever is convenient as far as the order for the state is fine.
McGee is good, because I already got it pulled up.
Okay,
Okay. Do we have Mr. McGee present as well?
This is Frederick Lewis.
Okay, why don't we start with Mr. Lewis also because he's joining us from.
Okay, I can switch to Lewis.
McGee present.
All right. Okay, Ms. Smith, are you ready?
Hi, yes, Judge, 1 second.
Let's go on the record. This is 24 SC 000-131 State versus Frederick Lewis. We are all joined here remotely on Zoom, and Mr. Lewis is present. His counsel, Mr. Richard Marks is present.